Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Steve Malzberg Show. Heard everywhere on radio, on the web, on Newsmax TV, Roku, and apps worldwide. Yes, indeedy. We are so easy to get. You just almost can't help yourself. We have a big show coming up at the bottom of the hour. Exclusive interview with Donald Trump. And we have a lot to talk about with the Donald. So make sure you're there and here for that one. Now, we've talked about this for the past couple of days now. Once we found out that HUD is planning to racially and economically integrate neighborhoods. They're going to use a rule, this, of course, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, a proposed new plan to change U.S. Neighborhoods that it says are racially imbalanced or are tilted too much towards the rich or the poor. Now, there is a neighborhood, there is a county in New York, Westchester County, that has had its little run-in, shall we say, with HUD. It's been ongoing for quite some time, and joining us now is my friend, who happens to be the Westchester County executive, former sports director, program director at 1050 ESPN radio in New York, and sports broadcaster, but now he's into the important stuff of politicking. We welcome in Rob Astorino. Hey, Rob, how are you?
Steve, how are you?
Good. Great to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, you too. I think, when you ripped off all those media that you're on, you are the king of media.
Well, let's save that for a little while. I'll take, how about the jack of media? Then we could work up, although I might have to skip queen and go right to king now that I think about it. All right, you and I have talked for years about what HUD has done to Westchester County. So first of all, before we get to that specifically, when you heard that now they're basically going to take this whole plan nationwide, what did you think?
No surprise to me. I've been saying this for 3.5 years, that this is HUD's plan all along, that Westchester, by their own admission, is the test case. The Deputy Secretary of HUD in 2009 here in White Plains, New York, with the then county executive, and announcing a settlement that the county would have to build 750 units of low-income housing in 31 mostly white communities, and we have to do it over 7 years and spend at least $51 million to do it. They said at the time that Westchester was, quote, the grand experiment, and that what they did here in Westchester, how far they pushed the envelope, was what they were going to do around the country. So I've been saying this, that this was their grand scheme, because they quoted us as being their grand experiment. So I've been trying to sound the alarms around the country. I know it's been picked up by many national media, but people, you don't always pay attention to these kind of things. But now it's time for people to understand what is at stake. And what is at stake is the very essence of local government in many ways.
Absolutely.
Because you have federal bureaucrats right now, unelected bureaucrats, who will decide how neighborhoods are built by their own standards in Washington, D.C. And so if they're, using their own statistics based on their own data, they will come up with their own logic and reasoning, and then tell communities, now here's what you got to do. And so really it's going to be who controls local zoning, which of course is what can be built and where in each community, whether an area is a single-family residential neighborhood or apartment buildings or schools or retail. Who's going to decide how a community is planned out, whether it's going to be a local zoning board, that means your neighbors, or is it going to be faceless bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.?
Well, right. Very well put. Now, of course, legally, under the Constitution, under the law, the feds have no business doing local zoning. And, in fact, Kendall Coffey, who we have on every week, famed attorney, said that, it's just not permissible. However, as you could attest to, You know, they could threaten you. They could tie you up in court. They could threaten to tie you up in court. You're going to have to pay millions in legal fees to fight HUD. And basically, they could strong arm you. Tell us what has happened. Give us the basis, you know, the Reader's Digest version. And by the way, Reader's Digest Road, I believe, is up.
Is in Chappaqua, where the Clintons live.
Yes. Now, interestingly enough, if they're going to start segregating neighborhoods, I don't have the current statistics, but I remember when the last time you and I talked, several years ago about this issue, that's when I knew that Chappaqua, where the Clintons live, was one of the, if not the whitest neighborhood, if you will, in the entire country. So I guess they should start with Chappaqua and Hillary's home. But let's talk about what
the home of Governor Cuomo, who was the former HUD secretary.
Oh, yeah, he's in Chappaqua also.
Yes, he is. He lives in Newcastle.
You can't, Rob. You can't make it
up.
No, you can't. You can't make it up. All right. So, but let's talk about what the feds have done. Again, Reader's Digest version, what they've done to you guys in Westchester.
Well, here's the crazy part. Westchester is the fourth most diverse county in all of New York State. We are tied with Manhattan. 23% of our nearly 1 million people are of Hispanic heritage. Living in Westchester, like everyone else, where they choose, where they can afford. And that is the case no matter what. The problem is we are also the highest taxed county in the United States of America. And so when I or you or anybody goes to buy a home, you not only have to find out how you're going to be able to afford this house, but then the taxes that go with it, which, by the way, let's just take Chappaqua since you mentioned that. You know, it is not atypical to have a property tax bill of $30,000, $40,000, or $50,000 or more a year.
Wow.
In that community.
Wow.
So there are a lot of people, including myself, who cannot afford to live there.
Absolutely.
And that is not segregated or discriminatory. That is pure economics. And that's really what the essence of this is. There is no, quote, exclusionary zoning. There are no laws that prevent people of a particular race or color or creed or background or familiar status. And I would be the first, by the way, to stand in line with the district attorney and everyone else to prosecute anybody who did that. That's not what this is about. This isn't about real estate agents steering a particular person because of their color or ethnicity towards a different neighborhood or a different school district. This is about being able to afford to live where you can or choose to live where you can. And so zoning by the New York State Constitution, and this is a home rule state. In other words, the county doesn't control zoning. Each community does, by law, under the New York State Constitution, under guidelines, of course. But zoning and discrimination are two different things. Discrimination is wrong.
Right.
There are rules, there are laws to deal with that. Zoning allows or prohibits what can be built and where, not who lives there. That's a very big distinction. And HUD doesn't see that distinction. And that's the problem. And so now they're taking this view that they call it disparate impact. So they use statistics. In other words, neighborhood X has 95% of its population is white. Therefore, according to HUD's view, it must be segregated and discriminatory. And so the federal government needs to step in and change the profile of that community by any means necessary, basically.
Right. Okay, now they're not allowed to do that, but what have they done to you guys to try to accomplish that?
Well, here's what they're going to do as part of their new rule to, quote, affirmatively further fair housing. So what any community or any state, if you choose to accept any money from the federal government, then you must abide by these rules. You must attack discrimination and segregation even when it doesn't exist.
Under their definition of it.
Under their definition, under their statistics, and under their guidelines and strategies. And thus, you're basically yielding your local control to the federal bureaucrats in what they see must be done.
Does every locality take federal money?
Almost everyone does, of course, through the last decade.
Okay.
I mean, that's just the way that it is. But, again, who has the right? And it takes away, by the way, it presupposes that communities or states are segregated and discriminatory without any evidence. In fact, it's just the opposite here in Westchester. We have done an analysis, the county has, and it was backed up independently by Pace University, where they looked at each of the 853 separate zoning districts among all of our communities, cities, towns, and villages. They found not 1 ounce of exclusionary zoning. The big obstacle, of course, is income. The big obstacle is economics.
Which is natural. I'm white. I couldn't move into the tax the real estate tax bracket you just mentioned,
That's
not
right.
by a long shot.
That's right. And so I live in the town of Mount Pleasant in New York, which is by and large middle class, middle income, and everyone around us is the same. Everyone around us making similar incomes, living in single family homes, and we are shocked, just like everyone who's now starting to hear this, shocked to find out that somehow we're being labeled as discriminatory and segregated, and even worse. HUD has, by the way, even attacked single-family, quarter-acre residential as potentially discriminatory. That is ludicrous. So what they're trying to do is attack zoning and then basically say...
Well, you mean it's too much land given to one person? Is that it?
A quarter acre.
But is that what they're saying?
That's like the American dream,
Yeah,
right?
but that's what they're saying.
What they're saying is because it's single family.
Right, it's too much.
It's potentially discriminatory.
I got to tell you, we're talking to Rob Astorino. He is the Westchester County Executive in Westchester, New York, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Okay, so briefly now, how are they strong arming you, and what do they want you to do?
Here's what they want me to sue our communities to overturn zoning and restrictions. So they define a restriction. In other words, in a zoning code, there should be no restrictions in any neighborhood on height, on density, on acreage, on water or sewer or other environmental protections. If there is, then that is potentially discriminatory and must be overturned. So think about this, Steve. I live in a quarter-acre single-family residential neighborhood.
You bigot.
Yeah, I know. So if my neighbor goes to sell his property, you take away those restrictions on height, on anything like that, then a government, federal, state,
they
local,
buy it and they put up a high-rise.
Or a developer, because there's no rules for him either.
Unbelievable.
There's nothing to protect the neighborhood. So an apartment building can go in there, subsidized housing, because that's what the federal government also is after. And now you've got a mishmash in every neighborhood where, by the way, all of our communities for decades have been winning awards from the federal government, too, for our affordable housing programs. We are very, not only compassionate, but we have always said, and I say it now, we're still doing it without a gun to our head by the federal government because it's the right thing to do. We are building affordable housing all over in different ways.
All right, so Rob, we only got like a minute left.
Yeah.
So no, I'm glad you're explaining it perfectly, and it's horrific. But
horrific.
tell me what the bottom line is here, where you stand, and what they're threatening you with. How much does it cost you guys, first of all?
Well, it's not costing us anything right now because everything we're doing is in-house.
Okay.
The county already lost this lawsuit in 2009. They actually didn't lose it; they settled, and these were the terms. And now
then HUD changed the rules.
HUD keeps changing the rules.
Yeah.
So here's the wake-up call to anybody listening right now. If you think this is isolated to Westchester County, New York, you are absolutely wrong because now it is out there for federal rules, which could be adopted under the comment period shortly. And this will be the policy of HUD to now do this everywhere. So please understand, find out this rule. There's been a lot of stories written about it. Even make a comment, but understand what is at stake here, that the federal government is going to come to a neighborhood near you to do what it feels is necessary and to take away local control and local zoning and put it in the hands of people down in Washington,
Listen, very well, a very complicated issue, very well explained, and please let's be in touch as this progresses, and keep up the fight. That's all I could say. And thank you for being Paul Revere on this, because we did have you on several times when this broke, and at my old show, and I think that this is so important, and now we've seen where it's led.
And by the way, Steve, if I can just say, for people who want to read these letters from HUD, they're only about 8 pages long. It's frightening because it says right there what they're doing and what they want. Go to either my website, which is robastorino.com, ASTORINO.com, or westchestergov.com, and read it. Housing settlement. Read these letters, and you will be frightened.
I'm sure. Rob,
okay.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Rob Astorino, ladies and gentlemen, Westchester County Executive This is where we're headed. You want to weigh in on this? Do you want the government coming in and buying the half acre of property next to you where the guy moves and sells his house? They knock it down. They put up a high rise in your backyard? Low income housing? Is that what you want in your neighborhood? I mean, you want them to have the ability to do that? That's what they're aiming for, my friends. 855-777-9660 on the Steve Malzberg Show. And Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
You've heard the allegations on the news, and during the big game, pro football players have been using deer antler velvet to get a competitive edge. Banned at the London Games for its performance-enhancing qualities. Forbidden in major sports leagues for being an unfair advantage to athletes. Deer antler velvet is now in stock and available to try for free for a limited time only. Athletes have been using it for years for increased strength, increased endurance, muscle mass stress reduction, and yes, greatly enhanced libido. Everyone's talking about this miracle substance so powerful, it's being banned by professional sports organizations, but for a limited time, it's being made available to the general public. Best of all, you can try it for free by calling 800-678-5153. That's right, get Superior Velvet for free. If you're looking to boost your performance on the field and between the sheets, get the most powerful, proven product used by athletes for years now for free. Claim your free bottle today by calling 800-678-5153. That's 800-678-5153. Again, 800-678-5153.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at AftershockVideo.com. AftershockVideo.com.
Obamacare. More than $1 trillion in new costs. Hidden taxes, fees, big Medicare cuts, doctor shortages. How can we survive?
To know Obamacare is to survive Obamacare. The Obamacare Survival Guide tells you everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
Heart disease is the biggest killer disease in America, and this doesn't surprise me. We are addicted to starches, sugars, fatty meats, and salt. People who live in countries with little heart disease eat very differently. One way some people stay heart healthy is by following what is known as the caveman or Stonehenge diet, so named because of its similarity to the way our prehistoric ancestors ate. People who follow this type of diet live off local fruits and root vegetables and get their protein mostly from fish and wild game they shoot themselves. Now, since most of us don't hunt or fish for all our protein, here are some simple tips on how you can start to eat like a caveman, modern-day style. First, fill up on fruits and vegetables. Eat them first, and you'll be less hungry. Feast on fish, which is rich in nutrients, but not in calories. Choose fatty fish like mackerel, herring, sardines, and salmon, which are rich in heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Get out and go for a walk. Remember, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, so they didn't spend their time sitting in front of a TV or computer all day. If you live more like a caveman or a cavewoman, your heart will love you for it. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thank you for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show?
Everywhere.
From your smartphone to satellite radio
To Newsmax Live TV.
to Roku.
We have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. I got to tell you, it is very frightening to listen to Rob Astorino. I mean, think about what's going on here. Westchester County is one of the most diverse areas in all of New York State and all of the country. And HUD has targeted them, made them a test case. I've been trying to get Rob on ever since this HUD story broke, because I've talked to Rob about this over the years many, many times. And he has said all along that he believed that this, as he indicated here earlier on the show, that this was a test case. This was the case. And once they got Westchester, and once they saw how this was panning out, they would go for the gold, and the gold being the rest of the nation. And how strong are localities? Can these localities withhold the wrath of HUD? Now, again, I know they're on vacation, and I understand that, but they're doing interviews. They can make statements. They can hold press conferences. Where's the Republican Party on this? To say this is an outrage. To say what HUD is proposing here is disaster. It's social engineering. It's beyond their scope, beyond their reach. It should be beyond their reach. It's certainly beyond their scope. They have no rights to do this. But they're going to do it. They're going to try to do it. And how is your neighborhood going to stop them when this has been going on for years in Westchester? And then once a settlement was reached with Westchester County, New York, then they changed the terms. And they're free to change the terms because they're the federal government. So they could say, yeah, we agreed to that, but now we want this. And if you don't give us this, we're going to withhold your funds. We'll take you to court. You'll have to spend millions of dollars. Look, when Barack Obama said he was going to fundamentally change America, folks, this is what he meant. If this doesn't frighten you, I guess you're okay. I guess nothing will ever frighten you. Nothing. So you're pretty safe. Okay? All right, when we come back, the one, the only, Donald Trump on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
I love you, son, so it hurts when you say I hate you. I'm your mother. I'm tired of you disrespecting me when you don't get your way. I work hard to make sure you have everything you need. I should be able to ask you to get out of bed in the morning without a fight. So from now on, things are going to be different. I ordered the Total Transformation Program. We're not going to scream and fight anymore. I'm going to tell you what to do in a different way, and you're going to do it. You're not going to call me ugly names anymore, and if you do, you're going to get consequences that'll keep you from calling me ugly names. We're not going to do things your way anymore, son. We're going to do things the Total Transformation way.
Get the Total Transformation free. Just order the program, tell us how it works for you, and you can keep it for free. Call 1-888-577-9520. 1-888-577-9520. Call now. Call 1-888-577-9520. 1-888-577-9520.
My patients still don't know what Obamacare means for them. And how could they? There are already 13,000 pages of regulations, and the bureaucrats are just getting started. Obamacare will change your health care, and you need to understand how. There are hidden taxes and fines, big cuts in Medicare, even new regulations on what services doctors can offer you. Some businesses could get hit with a 40% additional tax on your health care plan. Please, get the Obamacare Survival Guide today. It's the best book explaining the new law. It's easy to read, everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere.
Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now. 800-574-6029. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-574-6029. That's 800-574-6029. Again, 800-574-6029.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. Folks ask me, what would Ronald Reagan do if he were with us today? I believe the first thing he'd do is stop Obamacare. Already it's in effect with higher taxes, hidden fees, skyrocketing insurance rates, big Medicare cuts, and some insurance plans are hit with a 40% tax. Protect yourself by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law, giving you the strategies, tips, and loopholes you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business owner, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need this book. Get the #1 bestseller, The Obamacare Survival Guide, at bookstores everywhere. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show.
No.
This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
And welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. And as promised, joining us once again, he was with us on show #1. I don't even know what show number this is the one and only Donald Trump. Hey, Donald, how are you?
Hi, Steve.
Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, Steve.
You've been very, very busy traveling to Iowa and talking about running for president.
Well, I've been busy in a lot of ways. We're building all over the world, and we're doing Doral in Miami, which is going to be incredible, and we're doing the old post office on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington. So I've been busy in a lot of ways, but I've certainly been busy politically. I just believe so strongly in it. I believe so strongly in the country. And, Steve, as you know, I hate to see what's happening, and I'm sure you do too.
It is very unsettling as a father of a 14-year-old. It is horrible. But let me. Did you played golf with John Boehner?
I did.
And could you give us a little information into what you guys were talking about, a little insight into what you guys discussed?
Well, we played at Trump National in Bedminster. He's a nice golfer, too. He's a very good golfer. He's a very, very good guy. And I always say he's got the toughest job in the country. I think he might have the toughest, the #1 toughest. But we discussed certain things, Steve, and, you know, whatever we discuss, we discuss. But he's out there doing his job. It's not an easy one.
All right, well, let me ask you this, without having to say, yes, you discussed this or not. Do you think, A, that the Congress will, and B, that the Congress should take a stand to fund Obamacare, and then, you know, everybody says, well, then they'll be responsible for closing down the government if the president doesn't go by along with that and the Democrats don't buy into it. But as the head of the RNC finally said yesterday or Sunday on the Sunday shows, it won't be the Republicans shutting down the government. The media will present it that way, but it'll be the president shutting down the government. So do you think, A, they will, and B, they should take that tact?
Well, let's start off by saying the following. Obamacare is a disaster. Obamacare will shut down the government of its own weight pretty soon if we don't do something about it. So that's an important statement to make. I happen to think that the Republicans have tremendous leverage at this point, and I disagree when I know all the arguments. I disagree with the people that say, let's let it ride. I think this is the time, and I think they have to do something about it. I have friends that are going to be closing up their businesses next year. I have other friends that are hiring all part-time people because this way they're exempt. You look at Congress itself is exempt from Obamacare.
Right.
So I would take a hard stand on it, and I would do something else. I would absolutely approve the budget, but I would not approve Obamacare. In other words, I'd approve the budget because politically speaking, I think it's important that they do that. Approve a budget, but I would not include Obamacare in the budget. That way, at some point, they'll have to make a decision. Do we get rid of this monster, which is an absolute monster? And by the way, the Democrats know about it 100%. They know what's going on. They know how bad it is. Do we get rid of it or don't we get rid of it? And that's what I would do.
All right. I hope you told that to John Boehner, because apparently he doesn't have the stomach for that.
Well, a lot of people don't. And the hard part for the Republicans is you have a group of people that want to do it, and you have a group of other Republicans that don't want to do
Right.
it. And that puts the ones that want to do it in a very bad position. You really need to be unified if you're going to do this. This is a big move, but you can't have half of them wanting to do it and half of them not wanting to do it. Personally, I think they have the chips. That's what I do for a living. It's called negotiation, and I think they have the chips, and I think they should use the chips because they may not have another chance.
I am with you 100%. We're talking, of course, Donald Trump here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let me throw some names at you, and, of course, you were to Iowa. Senator Ted Cruz. First of all, I mean, whether he was born in Canada, either he's going to be eligible or ineligible to run for president. If he's eligible, let's just talk about the man. I mean, he might be an opponent of yours in the primaries, but do you fall more on the Ted Cruz side of the party, and I think you do from what you just said, or more on the Chris Christie, Peter King side of the party?
Well, they're all friends of mine, and I like all of them. I met Ted Cruz really for the first time this weekend. I met him with his father, and I thought he was outstanding. I thought he was just terrific. We had a long conversation, and we'll get together at some point in the not-too-distant future. And, you know, it's sort of interesting because I was interviewed by ABC this week, and it was a fair interview.
Well, I'm going to get to that because they were not fair to you, but we're going to save that for the very end here.
The first question they asked was birther, and then all of a sudden they start with the whole birther thing. And, you know, they asked me a question about birther, and you know my feelings. I don't have to explain
No,
my
but here's the thing, Jonathan. I want you to pick up where you just left off, and I have the tape, but I won't play it because of time constraints. But he said he brought it up to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, they bring it up to me.
Yeah, and then later on World News Tonight or the next morning, Carl comes on and says, and Donald Trump is still talking about that birth certificate. Right. So that's misleading.
Right, totally misleading. And I thought, generally speaking, it was a fair interview, but I didn't think that was fair. He brings up the birther. And I said exactly what I said, and you know exactly what I said, and probably not so different from what many of the other Republicans feel and many people feel. There's a real question. But he brought it up to me, and the next day I'm reading all over the place that I brought it up. And it's just so dishonest. And I think people are aware of how dishonest the media can be. I mean, it's just shocking. And I said to him, I want to talk about China. I want to talk about OPEC. I want to talk about how this country is getting killed from an economic standpoint by virtually everybody we do business with. And that's what I want to talk about when he brought up the whole thing on birther. But it was like Trump brings up the birther subject. It's really
I noticed that right away. I did a whole segment on that yesterday.
Oh, that's great.
It was outrageous.
Very dishonest.
But let me get back to it, please. Chris Christie, you like him?
I do like him. Well, he's a friend of mine.
Okay, but politically.
Well, I've liked Chris, and again, it's too early to talk about this, but I've liked Chris. I don't even know if Chris is going to be running. I mean, he's got a race right now, which he's going to do very well in, I hope. But I don't know that Chris is going to be running. I really like to talk about people when they announce their running.
Okay, well, let's talk about you. You've said that if you run, you will spend as much as it takes to win. So you would get into this even if the coronation of Hillary on the Democratic side takes place?
Well, a lot of people are saying that's what's going to happen. I have a theory, and I know Hillary very well, and I know Bill very well. I have a theory that it's never going to be so easy. And I've seen a lot of coronations take place that haven't taken place. And you've watched it. I've watched it. Actually, Hillary was going to get it the last time, and it was, you know, there was nobody in her way. And Obama came along, and Obama snatched it. So a lot of early coronations don't mean a lot.
All right, foreign policy, the whole embassy shutdown. Do you believe we should have done what we did, or should we have not fortified the embassies and said, you know, we're evacuating our non-essential personnel, even evacuate everybody, but don't say you're closing the embassy. Have the Marines called in. I mean, did you agree with the way Obama handled all that?
Well, I think, look, you can go either way. What really bothers me even more than that, I wasn't thrilled with it, obviously, and I'm sure you weren't thrilled with it. Who is? But what bothered me more than anything is Benghazi. We know who did it, and that we don't go and take these people out, to me, is incredible, because what they did was unbelievable, and that they get away with it, and that we don't go in and get them. Major retribution to me was more bothersome than anything.
And what about Putin? Is he walking all over this president and playing games with him with regards to Snowden?
Well, he has been walking all over the president, and he is using that Snowden character, who I happen to think is a terrible guy and a total traitor.
I agree with you,
and
yep.
he should be tried. He has made our lives so difficult with other nations. Forgetting about the individual secrets that he's given out, and there's been plenty. People that thought we were these wonderful, the wonderful United States of America, and we're going to have this great relationship, and we have a wonderful, all of a sudden they find out they've been spied on and listened to and telephone conversations and all of the things. He has made it so impossible for our country to do business with other places that it is just unbelievable. He is a traitor, and he should be tried under the strictest laws and strictest rules, and he should come back, and we should get him back. And that Putin is playing the game is amazing. But the problem is Putin has no respect for Obama.
Well, absolutely. Do you think a boycott of the Olympics with your sports background would be a good thing or not?
No, I don't think so. I think the last one to try that was Jimmy Carter. And I believe it was Jimmy Carter. Yeah, I think it was Jimmy Carter. And, we all know about Jimmy Carter. No, I don't see that. I think that's unfair to a lot of people, including the athletes in particular. And it would just be, if there was respect, we would have Snowden back here so quickly.
All right.
But we should get Snowden back.
Absolutely.
And he should be tried as a traitor. He has really hurt this country.
I couldn't agree. One more for 10 seconds. Hillary versus Trump. You would spend what? I want to follow up because I didn't follow up, and I'm blaming myself now. I'd be remiss if I left you this way. You would spend whatever it would take, even if she were the nominee. That would not deter you from running if you decided to run?
If I decide to run, I will spend, I don't know who you'd be running against, but if I decide to run, as you know, I have a very, very substantial
That's
network.
what I hear, Donald, yes.
I've put a lot of people out there, a lot of people to great jobs, great education, great health care. I take care of a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people. If I decided to run, I would spend whatever I thought it was necessary. The Republicans have to win. I don't know if it's going to be Hillary or who it's going to be, but the Republicans have to win. We have to turn this country around.
Well, God bless you for saying that. I couldn't agree with you more. Donald, thank you so much. I hope we speak again soon.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Take care. That's Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen. Covered a lot of ground, and there's a lot of ground to cover because he's a man with a lot of opinions, a lot of money, a lot of power, and he has a lot of good ideas. He absolutely has a lot of good ideas, but he's victimized by the media as he was by Jonathan Karl on ABC. He realizes that he's outspoken about it, but if he ran for president, he would say to these reporters and these commentators, hey, what the heck are you talking about? Hey, I didn't say that. What are you doing? But the problem with Romney and McCain and Republicans in general is they accept that they're going to lose the war in the media. They accept they're going to be criticized, and they back off, and they don't want to fight. Now, maybe Donald Trump doesn't want to fight, but he's not afraid to confront and answer back. Okay, we're going to continue. 855-777-9660. Trump, Hillary, what do you think? On the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Guys, you've heard about Ageless Male, the natural supplement that helps boost testosterone levels within normal, healthy ranges. But now, the best testosterone product is even better. New and improved Ageless Male can help you feel more like you used to in your active life and in your romantic life. Because our upgraded formula has been clinically shown to increase your drive, desire, and performance. That's right, guys. Ageless Male has been clinically shown to boost performance. Cancel your plans this weekend. You're staying in. If you're ready to recapture the drive from your youth, now is the time to try Ageless Male because it's available risk-free. But you must call now. Just call 1-800-460-9790. Be the guy you used to be. Just call 1-800-460-9790. 1-800-460-9790. 1-800-460-9790.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, and you may be forced to watch helplessly as you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, all while your home's value is eradicated. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer believes we will soon stare down a secret crisis that will rival the Great Depression. It was Wiedemer's 2005 book, America's Bubble Economy, that warned of coming meltdowns in our housing and stock markets. Washington did not heed his call, and folks on Main Street lost $50 trillion from the recession. His New York Times best-selling book, Aftershock, predicted our federal debt and dollar would be the next bubbles to burst. And now Robert Wiedemer has released a startling video with shocking evidence the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Join us at Aftershock2013.com. Aftershock2013.com.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-0920 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-0920. That's 800-460-0920. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-0920. This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. His prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight, and nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind: to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit MedicSelect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
The Steve Malzberg Show is just a bit different from the other radio shows. We have TV cameras. Watch the show at Newsmax.com or listen on your favorite radio station. Here's Steve Malzberg.
Show heard everywhere on the radio, on the web, on Newsmax TV, Roku, and apps worldwide. All right, this is just breaking. Former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGeneva, appearing on WMAL radio in Washington, D.C., shed some new light on what the Benghazi terrorist attacks might be all about. And we're going to just briefly let me tell you that he said, and he represents Benghazi whistleblower Mark Thompson, and he revealed that new information from intelligence officials with knowledge of the incident indicate that the assault on the U.S. mission concerned 400 surface-to-air missiles intended for Syrian rebels, and they were stolen by, as he put it, some very ugly people. And he says that that's even why we closed the embassies a week or so ago, because of fears that some of those stolen surface-to-air missiles, or some of the stolen 400 surface-to-air missiles, could be used to attack an embassy. There's also a fear, according to Joe DeGenova, that some of these missiles might be used to shoot down a plane. And that's why he says Obama's looking to cover his behind by saying, you know, we got someone under sealed indictment, and give the illusion that they're solving the problem and getting the people responsible, when in fact there are now 400 stolen surface-to-air missiles in the hands of terrorists somewhere, and they could be used to shoot down aircraft. That's what Joe DeGenova is saying. So I just want to bring you up to date on that. We'll have more on that, of course, as the situation warrants, and we'll try to get a hold of Joe, whose wife, lovely wife, we've had on this show many, many times. Joining us now to talk about something that she has gone through is Ruthie Bloom, a columnist, author of To Hell in a Handbasket, Carter, Obama, and the Arab Spring. Hello, Ruthie. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, especially now that I solved the problem.
I know you solved the problem. Facebook has relented and has apologized, but let's tell the folks what has happened. First of all, you write an online column, a pro-Israel column, correct?
I write a column for the English language website of the most popular Israeli newspaper called Israel Hayom, which means Israel Today. It's israelhayom.com. I write op-ed pieces twice a week. I have been doing so for a long time. And about nearly 3 months ago, I started, one day I went to post one of my columns, and Facebook wouldn't let me post, and it wouldn't let me sign in even. And a warning signal popped up saying that there was inappropriate material on my page and that I should watch it. And for 24 hours, I was banned from Facebook, and that I had to agree to that. I had to click on something that said, I agree to these terms. So I agreed to it. I didn't understand. I waited 24 hours, and then things proceeded as normal until the next time it happened, and the next time. So at this point, I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand what columns. I searched my page. I read Facebook's rules of conduct. Facebook claims that you may not use hate speech or pornography or threaten to do self-harm. There's a whole list. Now, the only thing that I could think of that was on my page that might be problematic for anybody is that I'm a conservative columnist. I write anti-Obama columns, very factual ones, by the way. It just happens to be my opinion. Very pro-Israel columns, very anti-Arab Spring columns. That was my book, was about how the Arab Spring is not an Arab Spring at all. And I couldn't figure out anything other than politics what the problem was, unless it was spam. And so I tried very hard. I changed my settings on Facebook, and I tried to contact Facebook on more than one occasion. There's a little box that says you can leave your comments, and nobody got back to me. And then on Friday, I finally wrote about it. I said what I realized was that wasn't that Facebook was doing this on purpose to me. Facebook doesn't care about me. Facebook has billions of users. They don't pay attention. But what they do is listen if somebody complains about you. And somebody must have been targeting me and complaining about me regularly. And instead of checking or letting me defend myself, Facebook kept threatening to block me. And the last time it happened, it was for 3 days. And so, but once I wrote about it, suddenly it was interesting because the whole web went crazy. People were commenting that it's been happening to them, and that there are horrible sites on Facebook, Nazi sites, jihadi sites, and they're left alone.
Right.
And then, you write a column that defends Israel, and you're warned that there's incendiary material on your page.
Well, this may be a new tactic of the left to silence people like you and others who put conservative, pro-Israel views on their Facebook page, etc. But you did get a note from Facebook finally.
I did. Now, it's not finally. It happened immediately. immediately upon publication.
Right,
of
but
my
I mean,
article
finally in the context of the
finally
ongoing
in my
saga,
own
yeah,
life, yes.
yeah.
It's a shame that it's a shame that it had to be done this way. I mean, I would have liked it had Facebook answered me when I tried to reach Facebook before. But now what happened was it was so popular, this column, because this has been happening to many, many people, and conservatives in particular. Okay, this isn't new to us. We see what's going on. And as you said, it's the left or it's jihadis. The fact is you don't know who's doing it. But you can get a good idea. In any case, the issue is not who's doing that. There are always going to be people out to get you. That's not the point. The point is, that I was put on the defensive when, in fact, the person who was abusing Facebook rules was the person who was stalking me and trying to prevent me from publishing things.
Right.
So Facebook immediately. Now, what happened was the column went practically viral when it went on Drudge. The New York Observer picked it up. Then it got picked up by Drudge. And many, many, many people told me that these things had happened to them. They want to organize a blackout on Facebook. Conservatives all over the place were telling me that. And I immediately got an email from the head of marketing at Facebook apologizing profusely. And then later in the day, I got a standard kind of official Facebook apology. And so I wrote a follow-up column, and I quoted those apologies.
Right.
And listen, I think it's a wonderful thing. As I also wrote, the power of the pen. It's just a shame that somebody who isn't. I happen to be a writer by profession, and I have a venue for my articles. But what about all the people who don't?
Absolutely.
And
it appears that there's really, Ruthie, there's really no defense against it. And that's something that Facebook is going to have to figure out, and remedy before other people are victimized the way you and many, many others have been. Great story, terrible story, but with a good ending. And again, hopefully Facebook will try to figure out some way to make sure it doesn't keep happening. I thank you for your time. Just tell everybody real quick where they could read your stuff.
They can read my stuff on Israel Hayom, IsraelHayom.com.
Okay. Ruthie Blum, author of To Hell in a Handbasket, Carter, Obama, and the Arab Spring. Okay, folks, when we come back, racism, black and white. One African-American is kind of sick of the whole topic. We'll talk about it on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530. That's 800-460-1530. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-1530. This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
If you're a baby boomer or senior, please listen closely to this important message. Politicians in Washington are quietly plotting to decrease your Social Security payments drastically, and they want to do it soon. In fact, despite rising prices at the gas pump, grocery store, and doctor's office, retirees have received a mere 1.3% annual increase to their Social Security checks. Meanwhile, food stamp recipients have seen their payouts increase over 30% under the Obama administration. That's shocking. So when we stumbled upon a weird trick that could add up to $1,000 to your monthly Social Security checks, we knew we had to share it with you. To get started, simply go to SocialSecurityFree.com. Yes, it's true. You can take simple steps that could add up to $1,000 to your monthly Social Security payouts. Newsmax says SocialSecurityFree.com is a critical resource for anyone over 50. Go to SocialSecurityFree.com.
Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Now update. I'm John Bachman. New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg vows to fight a judge's decision that calls the city's controversial stop and frisk policy unconstitutional. That policy allowed police to stop and search people even without warrants. Police say it was a life-saving crime-fighting tool, but the courts called it racially discriminatory. Opponents said it also violates the Constitution's Fourth Amendment, which guards against unlawful searches and seizures. That ruling does not put an end to the practice, but it does reform the way the NYPD will have to implement those stops. Bloomberg says it will ultimately make the city less safe.
This is a very dangerous decision made by a judge that I think just does not understand how policing works.
The mayor added that the ruling makes things even more confusing for cops because they will now have to change their long-standing practices. And James Whitey Bulger, leader of the Winter Hill Gang, Boston's Irish mob, will now finally pay for the murders he orchestrated in the 1970s and 80s. A police escort whisked away Bulger after a jury found him guilty of 11 counts of murder and a slew of racketeering charges. His lawyer said the verdict came as no surprise to the 83-year-old. The jury deliberated for 5 days before reaching an agreement on most of the charges. Bulger's defense lawyers tried to put the government on trial, detailing the corruption and payoff of several FBI agents, state and local police officers, and other authorities. The tactic did help get Bulger off on 8 of the 20 murder charges against him. For the families of those victims, Monday's verdict was painful.
I never got to meet my father, and I'm still getting kicked into the stomach to this day.
Sentencing for Bulger is scheduled for November 13th. The 83-year-old faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. And the owners of a resort near Disney World in Florida are waiting to find out just how much damage was caused to the property after a sinkhole opened up and swallowed at least one building there. A security guard is also being called a hero for going door to door to wake up guests when the building first started shifting. And right now, authorities say there is no reason to believe this hole is getting any larger. And a man attending a Monday night baseball game with the Atlanta Braves has died after falling more than 60 feet from the upper deck of Turner Field. Police say witnesses described the fall as an accident, but they're not sure if wet conditions contributed to the fall. Heavy rains delayed that game for nearly 2 hours. And coming up next on your Newsmax Now update, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. How long will he go to prison for illegally spending campaign contributions? Plus, see what kind of special treatment he's asking for. And as Republicans in Congress contemplate pulling out all the stops to defund Obamacare, the founder of Americans for Tax Reform, Grover Norquist, proposes an alternative.
We could get a one-year delay.
Up next, a Newsmax exclusive with Norquist and why he thinks his plan will work.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at Aftershock911.com. Aftershock911.com.
What is LigNet? LigNet is knowledge. LigNet is power. LigNet is global. Top-level officials, U.S. intelligence officers, national security advisors, foreign operatives, all reporting directly to you. What is LigNet? LigNet is confidential. LigNet is sensitive. LigNet is security. What is LigNet? They're the ones taking the world's pulse. If you're not in the know, you're not on lignet.com. You've been briefed.
Hi, this is Dick Morris. Obamacare is taking full effect this year with over 15,000 pages of regulations. You need to know how this law affects you. That's why you should get your copy of Obamacare's Survival Guide. It's easy to read and the best guide to the new law. Even if you're currently insured or a senior on Medicare or a business owner, a medical professional, or really any citizen, you need the Obamacare Survival Guide. In it, you'll find about hidden taxes, fees, and fines, including a 40% tax on some health plans. I warned you about Obamacare. It's rationing, Medicare cuts, and will trigger doctor shortages. Now the Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the simple steps to protect your family. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. It's already a #1 Amazon bestseller. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 today by going to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
And welcome back. Jesse Jackson Jr. and his wife will learn their fates tomorrow. Both face sentencing for illegally spending $750,000 in campaign funds. Prosecutors have asked the judge to sentence Jackson Jr. to 4 years in prison, and they recommended 18 months for his wife. She pleaded guilty to filing false tax returns. And despite strong warnings from their colleagues, some Republicans are still threatening to shut down the government in order to defund Obamacare. But during a Newsmax exclusive, anti-tax crusader Grover Norquist tells us he's got a better, less risky plan.
A 1 year delay would make it easier to get rid of Obamacare in the future. And if we delay it 1 year, I think we could go back and delay it again.
And to see more of our exclusive interviews and content, stay with Newsmax.com. This has been your Newsmax Now update for August 13th. I'm John Bachman. Now here's the Steve Malzberg Show in New York.
Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
It's so easy during this time, Trayvon Martin parallel to Emmett Till. Let me just tell you. In my mind, same thing.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Heard everywhere on radio, the web, Newsmax TV, Roku, and apps worldwide. We're glad you're aboard. Hour number 2, and that was Oprah. Oprah's had her share of, let's say, racially inflammatory statements of late as she promotes her new movie. And I wonder if there's any coincidence talking about the fact that in her mind, Trayvon Martin and Emmett Till are the same thing, which is just, to me, totally bizarre and inconceivable that anybody could actually believe that. And, of course, claiming that she was a victim of racism in a Swiss boutique where the saleswoman refused to show her a pocketbook because it cost $36,000, and she said, no, you can't afford that. By the way, the saleswoman denies that. Joining us now to talk about what's going on with race, and actually one man who says that he's suffering from race fatigue, and that would be Derek Green, member of the National Advisory Council of the Project 21 Black Leadership Network. Hello, Derek. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
You know what? It is. It seems like everything lately since Trayvon Martin, and including Trayvon Martin's case, has been turned into a racial issue.
It has been, and what's interesting is it's not just the Trayvon Martin incident. It's primarily since the president was campaigning and since he's been elected. It's just seems like every slight that comes up, or every opportunity that people who see the world through race-colored glasses, every time they have an opportunity to invoke race, they do so. And it culminated with the George Zimmerman verdict, and it prompted me. I was just so exhausted of hearing it over and over and over, not because we're talking about race, it's just the manner in which we're talking about race. It seems to be a very one-sided, dictatorial continuance of a narrative that we hear going on and on and on, and we're really not discussing the serious concerns that affect not only race relations in America, which have gotten a lot better, by the way, but some of the serious issues and concerns that affect the black community.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. But, I'm not surprised, and you could tell me if you are or not, that the usual people like Jesse Jackson and, would say that Trayvon Martin is Emmett Till, and the Al Sharptons of the world, demanding civil rights charges be brought against Zimmerman, et cetera. But, I wonder if Jackson really believes that, or he just says that. And in my mind, he probably just says that. But then there's Oprah. And, again, not a stupid woman by any means. How could somebody actually say that Emmett Till, a young boy, who for daring to look at a white woman, was hunted down, pulled out of his own bed that night, murdered brutally with wire around his neck, thrown into the river, in Mississippi by two racist brothers, how could she sit there during an interview in 2013 as a billionaire and say, yeah, Trayvon Martin is Emmett Till, it's the same exact thing? What could she possibly believe that, in your opinion?
No, she can't. And you know what you said in the intro, I think there's some truth to that. I think that this, you know, comes in combination with her having a movie coming out and the movie. I wouldn't doubt that at all. But for Oprah, a billionaire who made the majority of her fortune by and through the support of white America, to sit on television to say that America still has racial tendencies similar to what they were in 1955 is absurd. And I think that she should be called on it loudly. She should be ridiculed for it as well. There's no way in my mind that she believes that. As with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, I don't think that they believe that either. I think Jesse Jackson has seen the amazing transition that the country has gone through, you know, from the 1960s up till today. I mean, Jesse Jackson himself is a millionaire, you know, so I think that for Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, what they have found is that continuing to stoke racial emotions, manipulate the emotions of a large segment of the American population is a very lucrative business.
Absolutely.
You know, I really don't think that they hold those truths internally, but I know they know that they have news outlets who will pick them up. They know that they have organizations that will support what they say. They know that there are organizations out there that will donate to their causes so as to not be accused of racism. So it's a very not so secret form of extortion that those two gentlemen are engaged in.
We're talking right now, ladies and gentlemen, to Derek Green, member of the National Advisory Council of the Project 21 Black Leadership Network, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. And all this, as you point out in a piece I read about your race fatigue, ignores the so-called progressives and the race hustlers, whatever you want to call them, and maybe they're different, maybe some of them are the same, especially when those who are black are pointing. I think you said that they're pointing their fingers outward, and that means they're not pointing their fingers inward. Now, President Obama addressed the problem of or the admission that there's a disproportionate amount of crime and violence in black communities. And he said, without making excuses, he kind of said, but there's a history there of, well, he blamed it on poverty and a history. And I wondered aloud at the time, what's he talking about? Is he blaming what's going on in the black community today as far as violence on slavery? Is he blaming it on Jim Crow? I mean, what the heck's he blaming it on?
Well, notice that he's doing exactly what racial grievance industry profiteers do, and they always point out to an external force that's the reason, the motivator of what ails black America. You know, he and those like Michael Eric Dyson and those type of people will always say, well, it's the effects of slavery. The problem is the data just doesn't bear that out. I mean, there's data that suggests that even first and second generation blacks born after slavery, you know, didn't commit the types of crimes that are being committed today, and they were much more poor than the blacks in America are today. So it's not the effects of slavery, and it's not the effects of poverty. Poverty just doesn't cause crime. Crime causes poverty. So what the president should have said in his no excuse making is this: yes, there is racial discrimination. It does not exist the way it did 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. That being said, we are not going to allow racial discrimination to be an impediment to black America controlling what we can control. You know, the high incidence of illegitimacy isn't a racial issue. It's not because of white racism. The fact that blacks aren't getting married in high numbers as they used to isn't a product of white racism. You know, the fact that blacks abort so many babies disproportionate to their numbers in the population isn't a result of white racism. And so what he should have said in his no excuse pledge was to point some of these things out and say, well, as I just said, racial discrimination will always be with us, but we can't allow that. It's not the impediment that it once was. You know, to take a situation from history, you know, can we imagine if the Jews sat around and said, we're not going to do anything ourselves until we fully eradicate anti-Semitism? You know, they would have killed themselves off. You know, they wouldn't have been around. They wouldn't have been as successful as they are around the world. Well, to me, that's an excellent model to take. Let's not wait for racial discrimination to end, because it will never fully be eradicated. Let's go and start doing what we can do to improve our lot in life.
Don't let it defeat you. One more question, Derek. Where do you believe the black, so-called, by me right now, the black conservative movement is headed? The media, I think the media, by promoting the people on the other side and giving people like Al Sharpton a radio show and a TV show and tearing apart any black conservative, as they do with Hispanic conservatives and female conservatives. But the most recent, of course, is Dr. Ben Carson. He should shut up. He's a surgeon. What does he know? Blah, 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 blah. Any black conservative that comes along, the mainstream media will destroy or try to destroy. So with that as a backdrop, if you will, I mean, can the black conservative movement pick up steam, gain steam, and expand and widen their reach?
I think it already has. I think that what you're seeing is the more that we see blacks come out and speak against that racial narrative that's constantly being offered up in the media, the more that blacks see that, the more courage is going to be built. And, I do believe strength in numbers. It's, to go out and stand alone isn't for everybody. But the more that black Americans see that there are more black conservatives standing up, and they're standing up courageously to deal with the issues that plague not only America but black America as well, I think what you're going to see and have already been seeing is the tide starting to shift very slowly. You know that the black conservative message or the conservative message period is really doing its job. The louder you see those people condemn people like Dr. Ben Carson, the louder you see them try to condemn Allen West and black conservatives like that, the louder and the harder that they act to try to silence those type of people, you know that the message is becoming more and more effective. And so I think with what we've seen over the last 5 years, we'll continue to see over the next 3 in terms of economic policy and socioeconomics as it relates to minority communities. And I think more blacks are starting to wake up to say, listen, it was fun to elect the first black president, but our lives socioeconomically have gotten worse since he's been there. Maybe we should start to reassess our racial allegiance and start voting and identifying with people who hold upright character.
Yeah, 40% unemployment among black teens. And by the way, imagine if George Bush or someone who might be running for president on the Republican side in 2016 mispronounced Medgar Evers' name as Hillary did yesterday or the day or today. And of course, you won't hear it anywhere on the main news stations, but you would have heard it if it had been a Republican. Hey, listen, I really appreciate you coming on, Derek, and we'll speak again, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Derek Green, ladies and gentlemen, member of the National Advisory Council of the Project 21 Black Leadership Network. All right. Can the black conservative movement grow? It's been growing. I agree with Derek. Absolutely. Still in all, in the last election, still 95% or so of blacks who voted for Obama. Will they learn? Will they change? Will the Republicans make the necessary outreach? What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. 855-777-9660, 855-777-9660, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. You need to watch out because thousands of new Obamacare rules are currently being implemented, and few know what the law says or does. Listen to what Senator Max Baucus, one of the authors of the Obamacare law, recently said.
I tell you, I just see a huge train wreck coming down, and I don't see any results yet. I just see a huge train wreck.
He's right. So protect yourself from this train wreck. Get the #1 bestseller, the Obamacare Survival Guide. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law. Join more than 500,000 Americans who have their copy. Get the Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere, or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Hello, my name is Fred Fleitz, and I'm the managing editor of LigNet. You've probably seen our name preceding some of the stories you read on Newsmax or heard LigNet referenced on Fox News, C-SPAN, or CNN. Perhaps you've asked yourself, what is LigNet? LigNet is an acronym for the Langley Intelligence Group Network. a private Washington, D.C. based service that provides global intelligence, in-depth analysis, and detailed forecasting. LigNet's staff and advisors include former CIA officers, national security experts, presidential advisors, and top-level government officials from around the world. I myself held several national security posts for the U.S. government during my 25-year career with the Central Intelligence Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the U.S. Department of State, and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Our lead advisor is General Michael Hayden, the former director of the CIA. He is joined by former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations John Bolton and former chairman of the National Intelligence Council and Special Assistant to President Ronald Reagan Fritz Ehrmann, former U.S. Ambassador to Venezuela Otto Reich, and former clandestine service officer Frederick Russman. Former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee Peter Hoekstra also joined our advisory board staff. Every day, our goal is to use our expertise, our resources, and our worldwide staff to take the pulse of the ever-changing political and economic landscape and the threats we face on a daily basis. Whether you are following global events for your portfolio or business, or just interested in the world around you, LigNet provides what you need to know to keep up with global events. There are many. Every day, LigNet members receive the Morning Brief, a daily email that provides summaries and links to our daily analysis to keep you up to date on LigNet's assessments. LigNet members receive unrestricted access to LigNet's secure database of global analysis. All of our special reports, previous analyses, and exclusive video interviews with intelligence insiders are available to members 24 hours a day. But you also get top-notch analysis that resembles the President's Daily Brief, the classified intelligence assessment delivered to the President of the United States every morning. LigNet also sends breaking news emails to our membership list. If there is a development of global proportions or a terror alert, our subscribers are always the first to know. I hope you now have a better understanding of what LigNet is, but more importantly, recognize how truly invaluable LigNet can be. As the old saying goes, knowledge is power.
Join LigNet for $1. Go to lignet.com.
Breaking news and breaking hearts. Aww. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm just trying to find a story, very funny timing. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Chad, the fine producer of the fine Steve Malzberg Show. Louis Farrakhan, just what we were talking about. Well, we weren't talking about Louis Farrakhan, but Farrakhan blasts Obama. Black unemployment higher now than when the president was sworn in. Obama has not, cannot, and will not solve the problems in the black community. That's fresh on the on FoxNews.com. Clearly, we are in dire condition, Farrakhan said in a recent address, and the government of America can't solve our problems. Let me show you a little bit more, he later continued. Even though we're in 2013 are celebrating a two-term black president, the brother simply has not been able to repair the damage caused by centuries of racism, greed, which has now run this nation over a fiscal cliff. And he said that that black unemployment is higher than when Obama was sworn in. It absolutely is higher. It's higher for everybody, and I don't care what the rate says, okay? The real unemployment number, people, again, taking part-time jobs because they can't find full-time or leaving the workforce. Workforce participation's at an all-time low, or if not all-time, a low for, many, many, many years. So I just found that Chad said, "Do you see what Farrakhan said?" I said, "No, what?" And that's what he said. That's what he said. Now what on earth is, the Drudge headline is Godfather versus Nanny. And why do I think this is over stop and frisk? And if it will click for me, I'd be able to tell you. But in the meantime, let me tell you about a very interesting story. Oh, one other thing we didn't mention and that is that a federal judge dismissed the racial discrimination claims in a lawsuit filed by a former employee of Paula Deen. The former employee cannot claim to be a victim of racial discrimination targeting African-American workers because she's white, according to U.S. District Judge William T. Moore, Jr. He ruled at best, plaintiff is an accidental victim of the alleged racial discrimination. I haven't even been following this case, to be honest with you, but there you go. Can you make this stuff up? I don't think you can make this stuff up. It's like when we were talking in the previous hour to Rob Astorino, the Westchester County executive, about HUD and the Obama administration's efforts to integrate and desegregate quote-unquote neighborhoods, and the most, quote-unquote lily white neighborhood in all of New York State is Chappaqua, where Hillary Clinton and the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, live. You can't, and I said to him, I said, you really can't make this up? And he said, no, you can't. Speaking of New York politics, Anthony Weiner, he did a whole interview, an hour long, on BuzzFeed, and the arrogance, I don't even want to play a sound from him today, so I'm not going to. But I'll tell you, a new Quinnipiac poll of likely primary voters shows public advocate Bill de Blasio running ahead of Council Speaker Christine Quinn. He's more liberal than she is. All of these Democratic candidates are against stop and frisk. They're for a federal oversight of NYPD. If one of these Democrats become mayor of New York City, it is going to be, you talk about wild, wild west. Whenever you talk about right to carry, they'll be shooting each other in bars over parking spots. It'll be the wild, wild west. Well, the problem with that is people all over the country have a right to carry, and they don't shoot each other in bars. They don't shoot each other over parking spots. It just doesn't happen. Does it ever happen? Maybe, but it's like there's no wild, wild west. But that's what Charles Schumer and all of them like to say. It'll be the wild, wild west. No, New York City will be the wild, wild west, the way it was pre-Giuliani under David Dinkins and his predecessors, Lindsey, Beam, you name it. If one of these Democrats get elected mayor of New York City, that'll be the wild, wild west, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, indeed. Okay, when we come back, South Carolina State Senator and businessman Lee Bright is running for Senate, a primary challenge to Lindsey Graham. Yes, a primary challenge to Lindsey Graham, who really needs one, I believe. And we'll talk about it when we come back on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Are payday loans ruining your life? If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, listen closely. You may be eligible for a program that payday loan companies don't want you to know about.
This program will get payday loan companies out of your bank account and put an end to the payday loan nightmare. Call for free information and find out if Payday Loan Support Center is right for you. Payday loan companies usually trap you into paying rates as high as 700%. We understand payday lenders' tactics. Don't let them take advantage of you anymore. All you need is 2 or more payday loans to qualify. We can help even if you're behind in collections or have bad credit.
Internet payday loans qualify for this program as well. So call 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. The call is free and the consultation is free. Don't miss out. Call for your free information on payday loan relief. 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. Again, 800-250-5084.
If your prostate is giving you problems and your doc says it's just part of getting older, be wary. Renowned physician and author Dr. David Brownstein thinks this is baloney. He's discovered a link between aging and prostate health and believes prostate concerns do not have to be an inevitable part of aging. That's why he created Prostate Revive.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Brownstein. I personally formulated Prostate Revive to include the most essential natural ingredients available to help promote a healthy prostate gland and optimal urinary function.
The producers of Dr. Brownstein Brownstein's Prostate Revive are so thrilled with the positive feedback from satisfied customers that for a limited time, they are willing to send you your first month's supply free. Plus, call now and you'll also receive Dr. Brownstein's special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. For details on getting your free bottle, call 1-800-596-REVIVE. That's 1-800-596-REVIVE. Take control with Prostate Revive. Call now while supplies last to claim your risk-free bottle at 1-800-596-REVIVE.
Drug, alcohol, and gambling addiction can be devastating for you and your loved ones. Don't let the disease of addiction ruin everything you've worked so hard for. The Treatment Helpline has helped thousands of people just like you take control of their addictions and live healthier, cleaner, and happier lives. You are not alone. Now there's hope. The Treatment Helpline has helped people just like you overcome their addiction. If you or a loved one is suffering from a drug, alcohol, or gambling addiction, let us help you today. Call 1-800-813-9821. Our seasoned addiction treatment professionals can show you how to use your private health insurance to help cover the costs of this life-changing program. Call now and get a free confidential consultation. 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821. Help is only a phone call away. Call 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821.
Here's today's silver shortage update from Lear Capital.
Reports keep coming, the shortage is growing. Twice already this year, the U.S. Mint has run out. Last time this happened, the silver price jumped 40%. It's time to take advantage with this special offer from Lear Capital.
For a limited time, buy 20 new silver polar bear coins and get one free. The only 1.5 ounce coin on the market. It's minted with the finest silver, carries a government guarantee, and is eligible for IRAs. The silver polar bear is available exclusively from Lear Capital. But don't wait. Silver supplies are shrinking and availability is not guaranteed. This offer is limited to a minimum purchase of $5,000. Call right now. 800-634-0482. 800-634-0482. Call Lear Capital now. 800-634-0482.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show? Everywhere. From your smartphone to satellite radio to Newsmax Live TV to Roku, we have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Lots of people think that Lindsey Graham needs to find another vocation. And we have one such gentleman. He is South Carolina State Senator and businessman Lee Bright, who is seeking to take that seat in the U.S. Senate away from Lindsey Graham. He's a Tea Party conservative, and he joins us right now on the Steve Malzberg Show. Hello, Senator. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. So what makes you seek the seat of the currently seated senator?
Well, we just feel like we need a stronger voice for conservatism in South Carolina. Lindsey Graham has been obviously tutelaged by John McCain, and his voting record has been more in line with the Democrat Party than the Republican Party.
Yeah. Well, what bothers you the most? I mean, I could, you know, I have my own list, but what was there one position in particular, one issue in particular that put you over the top and said, I'm going to do it?
This latest immigration issue has kind of gotten my attention, just because I believe it spells the end of the Republican Party if this bill passes.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I've been saying for months that I don't understand what it is that they don't understand. When I say they, I mean the McCains and the Grahams and the others who say, A, you know, we got to do it or we'll never win the presidency, or B, we got to do it or we'll never win the Hispanic vote again, or first of all, you're never going to win the Hispanic vote again. Even George Bush didn't win the Hispanic vote, and George W. Bush. And what it's going to do is going to put 30 million new voters eventually. 95% of them are going to be Democratic voters. And the Hispanic population and the voters in this country who voted in 2012, senators, I'm sure you know, their fourth priority was immigration. Their own stated priorities put immigration fourth ahead of, jobs, economy, health care, and you name it.
Well, I think it's an effort by Graham and McCain really to dilute the conservative vote in the Republican Party and basically put us into a more moderate party, which is more where they're in line. And I think that if they had to choose, I'm sure you're aware of the recent interview with John McCain where he said it would be a tough choice between Hillary Clinton and Rand Paul.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I don't know how Lindsey Graham would vote on that, but it does seem that McCain and Graham are in sync on most issues. So talk a little bit about yourself. I mean, obviously, I think you have the support of the Tea Party. You've been endorsed by the Greenville, South Carolina Tea Party, and you got, what is it, a 100% rating from that group?
Yeah, we've got a 100% rating with the South Carolina Club for Growth, and the Republican Liberty has us rated as one of the highest in the state. So, all the conservative and liberty groups have us rated at the top of the scale. And we fought for gun rights and, 9th and 10th Amendment rights, trying to basically take some of the power back the federal government has taken from us, that we've just, basically the power's been sold. I mean, through the power of the purse, the federal government pays off these state officials and they allow the federal government to do whatever they desire just for more road funding or whatever the funding mechanism is.
Okay, so when you get to the Senate, if you get to the Senate, you would align yourself, I guess, with the likes of the Rand Pauls and the Ted Cruzes, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and Michael Lee would have a fourth, and hopefully we'll pick up a few more this next election. I know Tim Scott's been voting with them most of the time, and it's just a matter of getting some more folks that are more conservative in the U.S. Senate.
Now, you were also a businessman in addition to being a state senator. Talk a little bit about your business background and what you see that can be done to fix this broken economy.
Yeah, well, I started my business back in '97, and at one time I had 100 employees, and was booming. And then basically the EPA came in and changed the emission laws, which was devastating to the trucking industry. And I was heavily in the warehousing industry as well. And when the commercial real estate collapsed, I got caught holding with a lot of commercial property and a lot of trucks. And basically, my trucking company did not survive. And now I'm having to deal with the debt. And of course, it's a blessing and a curse in certain ways. I mean, it is good to be able to identify with folks that are going through tough times. But obviously, if I had my ruthers, I'd rather not. But that's where I am personally. And, I would like to be in a better situation personally, financially, but I don't think the country's got time for 6 more years of Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, and we're talking right now with a man who is looking to take the Senate seat away from Lindsey Graham, and he's running in the Republican primary against him. That's State Senator Lee Bright here on the Steve Malzberg Show. I know that you have sponsored the Life Begins at Conception Act. And I know that you've been outspoken against South Carolina refusing any money from the federal economic stimulus bill, and I also know that you feel that Lindsey Graham and some others have spent too much time focusing on international issues. For instance, what'd you think of his Egypt trip? I mean, I've read reports where after he and John McCain left, people were cursing the U.S. in the streets, saying we don't want your aid and all this kind of stuff, and it seems to me that, if anything, they've been more supportive of the Muslim Brotherhood in the vein of Barack Obama.
Yeah, Obama basically sent them over there on a mission to be basically community organizers for the Muslim Brotherhood. And they've gone over there, and, we're getting in the middle of an internal strife situation. And those guys are more concerned with what's going on inside the borders of Egypt than they are concerned about protecting our southern border, which has become of an invasion from folks from all over the world. We don't even know who's here anymore. And it's frightening to think that we're not concerned about our own borders, but yet we want to micromanage other countries.
Well, let's finally talk about health care, Obamacare. Certainly, I would assume, Senator, that you would be on the side of people like Donald Trump, who told us earlier on this show that he would align himself with the people in the Senate and the House, although they're not many in number on the Republican side, who would like to take a stand, would like to send a budget or a continuing resolution to the Democrats and the president that does not include funding for Obamacare.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was the lead sponsor in the South Carolina Senate to nullify Obamacare. I think that is the beginning of the end for our nation. I mean, we're at a tipping point now, and if they get control of health care, I mean, you think about this government manages nothing well, and to think that we would allow them to handle our health care. Talk to our veterans. Talk to those folks that are waiting more and more months now in order to be seen, and then think about the federal government, how it treats our heroes. How do you think it's going to treat the average citizen when they're in need of health care?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very good question. What is your realistic chances here? I mean, has there been any preliminary polling, and what's your fundraising ability, and can you beat not only Lindsey Graham, but there are some others running in this primary as well?
Well, www.brightforsenate.com is my website.
That's all right. It was a little hard to hear, so let me just say it's Bright, BRIGHT, for Senate.com. Okay.
Right, and that is our website. We have a video up already. We've been raising money already today. We just started this campaign at 10 this morning. It's going to be an expensive race. It's going to take money from all over the country in order to compete. We don't have to be able to spend dollar for dollar, but we do need to get our message out. The advantage we have is, number one, over the other folks in the primary, is we have a record, a very conservative record that people can point to and know what I'll do if I'm sitting in Washington. And the advantage we have over Lindsey Graham is that Liberty sells. So we've got a much better product than he has to sell.
And to those who say that you're putting, or if you or one of the others get the nomination and not Lindsey Graham, that you're putting the Senate seat at risk, possibly, what would you say to that? As far as keeping in Republican hands.
Lindsey Graham has been the greatest asset of the Democrat Party that they probably have. And in South Carolina, we need to send a conservative. We can send look. We elected Jim DeMint. I mean, we can elect a conservative to the U.S. Senate. If we beat Graham in this primary, I'm quite confident that we'll win the general election. You look at the last time an elected official has won statewide in South Carolina. I mean, we've cleaned out all the constitutional offices, the U.S. Senate offices. The only office they have now is the one congressional seat that Clyburn has, which, after the federal courts, if they stop drawing the lines, that'll probably cease to exist. Because, I mean, you've got a South Carolina that's totally opposed to Obamacare, and without gerrymandered districts, there's no way that folks like that are going to get elected.
Right.
I mean, you think about it. He has gone out to, I listened to him today, Clyburn had talked about how in January 1st of 2013, we were going to see the benefits of Obamacare, and they're going to run on Obamacare, the Democrats are. And the fact that it's not been implemented, the fact there are no benefits, and they're postponing basically everything to do with Obamacare because the states won't buy in. Even the states who are always there at the trough trying to get benefits from the federal government are turning it away.
And the unions don't want it either.
Oh, yeah, it's devastating. The unions, I mean, those guys, when the unions are, when Hoffa is against you and you're a Democrat, you got a bad plan.
That's absolutely true. Senator, good luck. We'll talk to you along the way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. That's South Carolina State Senator and businessman Lee Bright, who has decided to put his hat in the ring to run for the Republican nomination against Lindsey Graham for his Senate seat in the U.S. Senate. Be interesting to watch that. All right, folks, I want to open up the phone lines for the remainder of this hour, the final segment of this hour, which will be coming up right after the break. If you want to weigh in on any of the things we've been talking about or anything that's on your mind, I will entertain it at 855-777-9660, 855-777-9660, whether you're watching at Newsmax TV or anywhere on the radio in the great Big Talk 850 or News Talk 1160 down in Atlanta, or XM 244, or watching, of course, at Newsmax TV. I'd love to hear from you. 855-777-9660 on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Judging from everything you hear, you think all cholesterol is bad, but that's not really true. You need a certain amount of cholesterol to maintain good health. The problem is that too much cholesterol in your blood contributes to a plaque, a fatty substance that narrows the coronary arteries that feed blood flow to your heart. Picture your coronary arteries as a 4-lane highway. If one lane becomes blocked, traffic still flows well. 2 lanes, no major problem. But if a 3rd lane becomes blocked, that spells trouble. It's the same way with your coronary arteries. And when plaque slows their blood flow to your heart, this can even cause a heart attack. The good news is that when it comes to cholesterol, lifestyle changes can pay off big time. Even a small reduction in plaque can be like opening up another highway lane. Suddenly, blood flow that was stalled can go forward again. Changing your lifestyle does not have to be hard. And in fact, here are 3 ways to help you start lowering your cholesterol. Snack on nuts. Nuts are probably one of the easiest and tastiest ways to lower cholesterol. Walnuts and almonds are among the best. Bulk up your diet with fiber. Choose whole fruits instead of a fruit juice, brown rice instead of white, and if you're eating a baked potato, be sure to leave the skin on. Choose fish. Fish contains cholesterol-fighting omega-3 fatty acids. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-625-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows. Pause and rewind live TV. Even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV. Cancel the cable. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV.
We're in the midst of an obesity epidemic, and I'm not surprised. The statistics on obesity mirror an increasing trend of eating out or ordering in. In fact, some people dine out every night, but eating in restaurants is one of the biggest enemies of your heart. When you're in a restaurant, you don't really know what you're getting, and the calorie counts of many restaurant dishes are astronomical. In fact, some single dishes contain more calories than we should eat in an entire day. Eating in fast food restaurants is even worse. A diet of hamburgers, French fries, and shakes constitutes a fast lane to the emergency room. If you really want to help your heart, get in the habit of cooking simple meals at home. Here are 3 easy tips that will make your food taste better than even the best restaurant. Choose the best fruit in season. Your local farmer's market is a great place to start. It will probably still cost less than that pie you were thinking of buying. Get in the habit of using fresh herbs. You can use them in egg white omelets or dust them on the fish you grill or bake. And for a light dessert, choose a square or 2 of dark chocolate that you and your spouse can enjoy. There are lots of ways to make your heart healthy, but there are also lots of ways to damage it. That's why I wrote Fix It, Dr. Crandall's 90-day program. In it, I'll tell you how to kickstart your metabolism every day, how to pick the best diet for you, how to stop hunger from sabotaging your diet, the 7 superfoods for your heart. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute.
The Steve Malzberg Show is just a bit different from the other radio shows. We have TV cameras. Watch the show at Newsmax.com or listen on your favorite radio station. Here's Steve Malzberg.
Yesterday at the White House, President Obama met with Greek Prime Minister Samaras to discuss reforming Greece's economy. President Obama talking to the Prime Minister of Greece about the economy. Actually, it's the blind leading the blind. I think that's what that's the blind leading the blind. Yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
All right, folks, so welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. That was, of course, Jay Leno. And again, Leno's getting brave again now that Obama's gone. You know, he was brave for a couple of months, taking Obama to task, taking his policies to task, taking to task the state of the economy, the IRS scandals, Benghazi, etc. And then, of course, Obama comes on the show, and even during the monologue, while Obama was waiting in the wings, he had an Obama-type joke where he said Obama sent McCain and Graham to Egypt to work on the political situation. He said, shouldn't they get things fixed here before they go there? Yeah, everybody applauded. And then Obama comes out, and it's, very softball. So, and now Obama's gone again, of course, and now he's back to knocking Obama. It's a curious thing for curious folks and curious minds. We also have, listen to this. Did you catch this? Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, on Leno, talking about how Obama and him had a one-on-one at Obama's request. A guy comes in, this is at the White House or somewhere, I think the White House. Guy comes in and says, Mr. President, Syria, we got to, I'm not finished. Sends the guy who needed him for Syria, I think it was Syria, away, and keeps talking basketball with Mark Cuban. Listen to this.
Now, you had lunch with him recently, correct?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I got an email saying, would you like to have lunch privately with the president? And I was like, sure. So I went up to the White House, and literally in the West Wing, we spent an hour, just the two of us, talking basketball. It was surreal.
An hour?
An hour.
Doesn't he have work to do? An hour.
They knocked on the door and like, can we talk about the Syria thing? And he's like, wait a minute, And
Really?
Like, yeah, seriously. It was cool.
Wow,
it was cool.
That's comforting.
That's comforting. Yeah, very comforting. The president turned away the messenger who needed him for Syria because he wasn't finished with his hour-long basketball chat with Mark Cuban. That's kind of telling. I don't think Cuban's making that up. I don't think he would. I think that's pretty telling and not comforting at all. But I think it does speak to. I think it kind of speaks to how Obama does his job. I don't think he's that into it. I really don't. I mean, he's into the power. He's into whatever he could do to fundamentally change racist, bigoted, xenophobic, homophobic America. Don't get me wrong. And make all of us pay for the past sins that the bigoted, racist forefathers of ours perpetrated on generation after generation. Don't get me, he loves that. But I don't think he's that, I don't think he's that big on working at stuff. I mean, what has he done? He's appointed a commission on this. He's appointed a commission on that. Anyway, okay. Now, listen to this story, because this is very, and you folks at down in Atlanta, newstalk1160.com, newstalk1160.com is the website, of course. This is kind of scary. Anthony Stokes is a 15-year-old boy from Atlanta with an enlarged heart, okay? And he needs a heart transplant. They've given him 6 months to live, but Children's Healthcare of Atlanta will not put him on a heart transplant list, citing failures to take medication in the past and suggesting that he would not complete follow-ups if given a new heart. In other words, during the course of his treatment leading up to this point, he and his family, I guess, they can't pin it all on a 15-year-old, but for whatever reason, the kid hadn't taken his medication, hadn't done what he was told to do, and now it's gotten to this point, and they're afraid if they give him the heart, or if he's on the list and gets the transplant, that if past his prologue, he won't be following what they tell him to do. Now, I don't know that that's necessarily true. I don't know you can necessarily make that leap, to be honest with you. I mean, unless you could tell me that it's because he didn't take his medication when he was told to take his medication. Again, when I say he, I don't know, the family didn't follow through, he didn't follow through, he refused to do it, whatever. And that's what led to the enlarged heart, and that's what led to this problem. If there's that direct correlation, that direct link, then maybe you got a case to make. On the other hand, he's a 15-year-old boy, with a death sentence that, no one gave him, but he's facing death. And if there's a chance to save his life, but then the question becomes, aren't there others also as needy? And do you put him on the list when in the past he has not followed through? It says here, at 15 years old, Anthony Stokes should have his whole life ahead of him. But the teenager has been handed a death sentence by doctors at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, who refused to put him on the transplant waiting list because of previous behavioral issues, according to civil rights groups. He's African American, apparently, from the picture. He looks black to me. I can't tell if he's something different, but he's obviously a minority. So that's why you got civil rights groups involved. They ruled that because Stokes had failed to take medication in the past, his noncompliance rules him out of the chance to get a new heart. His furious family and civil rights groups claim that this is not the whole truth, and that in fact it is his low grades at school and brushes with the law that mean he will be sent home without a chance of survival. He's been given a death sentence because of a broad and vague excuse of noncompliance, said Christian Leadership Conference. There was nothing specific in that decision, just noncompliance. Up until his diagnosis in July, in which he was told his heart was failing, Stokes had been a very healthy teen. After informing Stokes and his family that he had less than a year to live, specialists also sent them a letter explaining why he should not be placed on that list. It read, the decision was made that Anthony is currently not a transplant candidate due to having a history of noncompliance, which is one of our center's contradictions to listing for heart transplant. Well, look, if that's policy, and if there has been noncompliance, and noncompliance is a factor which would keep someone off a list, you got to go with the rules sometimes, because if he doesn't get the heart, someone else will get the heart. Look, I'm not here playing God. I'm just saying, but somebody, ultimately there's a list. Ultimately, there's rules for who gets the transplant. Now, I remember I was advocating for that little 10-year-old girl that Kathleen Sebelius should make her eligible for adult lungs if the adult lungs would work. And she wouldn't, but a judge made it happen. That girl's alive. So it's way above my pay grade. And I don't know what the truth is here. But if there are rules, if he's made his condition worse by not taking medicine and not following prescribed treatment in the past, it does open up an argument, regardless of what color he is, it does open up an argument for maybe giving that heart to someone who's tried everything they can. I don't know. I don't know where he would fit on the list, where he would move up or move down. Okay, folks. That's a question, and this is a case I'm sure we'll hear much more about, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Obamacare. President Obama's massive health care law is taking effect this year. With over 15,000 pages of regulations, few even know what it means. Now, the Obamacare Survival Guide by Nick Tate gives you the shocking facts about this law. It's a step-by-step guide on how you can protect yourself. Already the New York Times bestseller, every American needs to get the Obamacare Survival Guide and find out about the new taxes, hidden fees, fines, Medicare changes, business rules, and why doctor shortages are likely. Donald Trump says the Obamacare Survival Guide is a must-read for anyone worried about getting good health care for themselves or their employees. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's at bookstores, or get our special offer at Obamacare911.com and you'll save $15. Go now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com.
150 million people suffer from headaches. All you want is for the pounding in your head to stop.
Migralex stops the pounding. Migralex was developed by a neurologist and founder of the New York Headache Center.
I'm neurologist Dr. Alex Malzberg. After studying and researching the human brain for 25 years, I've developed Migralex, which eliminates pounding headaches. It works for my patients, and I'm so convinced it will work for you. I don't just guarantee it, I put my name on it.
Dr. Malzberg's Migralex gets rid of headaches fast without harsh caffeine, sodium, or preservatives.
Migralex works unbelievably fast, and it's gentle on my stomach.
Find out how to get your free bottle of Migralex. Call 800-532-2967. Plus, if you're one of the first 100 callers, you'll also receive the Migralex Quick Tips to Headache Relief absolutely free. That's 800-532-2967. Or go to migralexrelief.com. MIGRALEX relief.com. Or call 800-532-2967.
Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Now update. I'm John Bachman. New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg vows to fight a judge's decision that calls the city's controversial stop and frisk policy unconstitutional. That policy allowed police to stop and search people even without warrants. Police say it was a life-saving crime-fighting tool, but the courts called it racially discriminatory. Opponents said it also violates the Constitution's Fourth Amendment, which guards against unlawful searches and seizures. That ruling does not put an end to the practice, but it does reform the way the NYPD will have to implement those stops. Bloomberg says it will ultimately make the city less safe.
This is a very dangerous decision made by a judge that I think just does not understand how policing works.
The mayor added that the ruling makes things even more confusing for cops because they will now have to change their long-standing practices. And James Whitey Bulger, leader of the Winter Hill Gang, Boston's Irish mob, will now finally pay for the murders he orchestrated in the 1970s and 80s. A police escort whisked away Bulger after a jury found him guilty of 11 counts of murder and a slew of racketeering charges. His lawyer said the verdict came as no surprise to the 83-year-old. The jury deliberated for 5 days before reaching an agreement on most of the charges. Bulger's defense lawyers tried to put the government on trial, detailing the corruption and payoff of several FBI agents, state and local police officers, and other authorities. The tactic did help get Bulger off on 8 of the 20 murder charges against him. For the families of those victims, Monday's verdict was painful.
I never got to meet my father, and I'm still getting kicked into the stomach to this day.
Sentencing for Bulger is scheduled for November 13th. The 83-year-old faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. And the owners of a resort near Disney World in Florida are waiting to find out just how much damage was caused to the property after a sinkhole opened up and swallowed at least one building there. A security guard is also being called a hero for going door to door to wake up guests when the building first started shifting. And right now, authorities say there is no reason to believe this hole is getting any larger. And a man attending a Monday night baseball game with the Atlanta Braves has died after falling more than 60 feet from the upper deck of Turner Field. Police say witnesses described the fall as an accident, but they're not sure if wet conditions contributed to the fall. Heavy rains delayed that game for nearly 2 hours. And coming up next on your Newsmax Now update, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. How long will he go to prison for illegally spending campaign contributions? Plus, see what kind of special treatment he's asking for. And as Republicans in Congress contemplate pulling out all the stops to defund Obamacare, the founder of Americans for Tax Reform, Grover Norquist, proposes an alternative.
We could get a one-year delay.
Up next, a Newsmax exclusive with Norquist and why he thinks his plan will work.
3 a.m. and you're up again for the third time. It's not just affecting your sleep, it's interrupting your daily life. Frequent trips to the bathroom due to an aging prostate is a common concern, but you can now do something about it with Prostate Revive. Doctor-formulated Prostate Revive is an all-natural dietary supplement packed with 15 powerful ingredients, focused on improving prostate health by targeting the two main sources of prostate concerns, rogue testosterone and inflammation. And now, in this limited time radio offer, you can try Prostate Revive absolutely absolutely free. That's a free bottle, a 30-day supply of Prostate Revive, risk-free. Plus, if you call right now, you'll also receive our free report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. Call now for details on getting your free bottle, plus our doctor's report. Call 1-800-659-REVIVE. That's 1-800-659-REVIVE. Don't be a victim of an aging prostate. Start getting the sleep you need and get your life back with Prostate Revive. Claim your risk-free bottle now at 1-800-659-REVIVE.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at AftershockVideo.com. AftershockVideo.com.
Obamacare. More than $1 trillion in new costs. Hidden taxes, fees, big Medicare cuts, doctor shortages. How can we survive?
To know Obamacare is to survive Obamacare. The Obamacare Survival Guide tells you everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
And welcome back. Jesse Jackson Jr. and his wife will learn their fates tomorrow. Both face sentencing for illegally spending $750,000 in campaign funds. Prosecutors have asked the judge to sentence Jackson Jr. to 4 years in prison, and they recommended 18 months for his wife. She pleaded guilty to filing false tax returns. And despite strong warnings from their colleagues, some Republicans are still threatening to shut down the government in order to defund Obamacare. But during a Newsmax exclusive, anti-tax crusader Grover Norquist tells us he's got a better, less risky plan.
A 1-year delay would make it easier to get rid of Obamacare in the future. And if we delay it 1 year, I think we could go back and delay it again.
And to see more of our exclusive interviews and content, stay with Newsmax.com. This has been your Newsmax Now update for August 13th. I'm John Bachman. Now here's the Steve Malzberg Show in New York.
Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Steve Malzberg Show, heard everywhere on radio, on the web, Newsmax TV, Roku, and apps worldwide. Coming up later in this hour, we're going to talk to Paul Callan. He is a CNN legal analyst, and he is also well qualified to talk about the decision in the stop and frisk case yesterday, which has national implications. It's not just, relating to NYPD, although immediately it is. And Paul Callan, former New York City homicide prosecutor, he's also a criminal defense attorney, so he will be here live in studio, and he will be talking to us and with us about the stop and frisk, and also talking about what Eric Holder had to say yesterday with regards to making sure that people aren't subject when they're arrested for drug offenses, as long as the authorities believe they're not part of a cartel or a drug smuggling ring or a drug selling ring, making sure that they're arrested in such a way that it doesn't make them culpable for, if you will, for mandatory minimum sentences. Now, I've had the former Attorney General of the United States, Mike Mukasey, tell me here yesterday that that's against the law. You can't tailor existing laws and pick and choose which parts of existing laws you want to or you will enforce and change how you will enforce existing laws to meet your political agenda, which in this case happens to be Eric Holder and Barack Obama feeling there are too many people in jail, and I feel they feel there are too many African Americans in jail. So they're going to try to cut back on that number by making it easier for judges because, well, not making it easier for judges, but circumventing the minimum sentencing requirements. So Paul Callan will talk about all of that with us right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. I have a couple of stories, though. And this one I'm certainly going to save for – I don't even know what to say about this. I don't even know what to say about this because this is so mind-boggling. Did I say mind-boggling? Mind-boggling. Why would I put the emphasis on the boggling when I don't think I've ever done that before? Adam, you have any idea where I might have done that? Why would I say mind-boggling when it's mind-boggling? Okay, this is so mind-boggling that I can't even fathom. Okay, I promise you this story, this mind-boggling story, later in the hour, and it involves juries. So everybody should be concerned and aware. I promise you that. All right, joining us right now, though, to talk about his new bestseller is Dan Balls. Dan Balls is the chief correspondent at the Washington Post and its former national editor, political editor, and White House correspondent. He's the author of Collision, 2012, Obama versus Romney and the Future of Elections in America. I hold that up for our Newsmax TV audience to see. Hello, Dan. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I got to tell you, as a political junkie, I can't think of anything, to be honest with you, that I'd rather pick up a book and read about, because the inside of a presidential election, how it turned, why it turned, the stuff I wasn't privy to during it all, and even in the aftermath, you've had some probably the most extensive exclusive interview with Mitt Romney since it. So to me, this is just stuff that I just need to have.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I hope your listeners feel the same way. I mean, it's a fascinating story. The 2008 campaign was obviously, historic and uplifting and aspirational, if you will. This was a lot more trench warfare, but I thought that by the end of this campaign, we learned a lot more about the country we're in and the kind of the divisions that we face, and it all added up with the cast of characters that we had to work with into just a really interesting story to try to retell.
Well, let me ask you this, and let me start maybe at the end here and not the beginning. How on earth did it turn out that against all projections that, and even common sense would dictate that it wouldn't happen this way, but you had the excitement of 2008 with the first black president on the ticket or candidate on the ticket for a major party, and you had the huge black turnout, the huge Democratic turnout, and all that to elect this man. How was it that a lot of that turnout was even greater? Again, against all odds, common sense, and projections in 2012.
Well, the Romney campaign was asking themselves that question the morning after the election, that's for sure. They certainly did not anticipate that African-American turnout would be anything close to what we saw in 2008. Now, overall, turnout was down a little bit, and particularly in some of the non-battleground states. But in general, turnout was pretty strong. I think one reason in the African-American community, for example, there was a feeling that if Obama were not reelected, it would almost, in a sense, invalidate the first election. And there was, we saw these huge lines of people waiting to vote in Florida for some of the early vote in the final few days. And, for example, in Philadelphia, the city precincts in Philadelphia, just big turnout of African Americans. And I think there was a kind of as some of the Obama people said, there was a kind of a feeling of we've got his back, and we're going to be there if he needs us, and it looks like he needs us, so we're going to turn out. Similarly, I think that the Romney team did not think that turnout of young voters would be anywhere close to what it was. They thought that young people had been highly energized by the 2008 campaign and were somewhat dispirited by what had happened since, particularly because the job market was so tough, especially for a lot of young people. And yet youth turnout was pretty strong as well. And so there was just part of that was that there was still enough enthusiasm among the Democratic base for Obama. Part of it was that the Obama campaign worked very, very hard to identify anybody who might be likely to vote for the president and went out and found ways to get them to the polls as best they could.
We're talking to Dan Balls, the author of Collision 2012, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let me ask you this. How big a mistake was it, after debate number one, where Mitt Romney just dominated Barack Obama? Do you believe that he relaxed and tried to rest on those laurels? And how big a mistake was it for him not to press on Benghazi, not to fight back on Benghazi? And I almost as an aside, the Candy Crowley mistake, because it was a mistake, he did not call specifically Benghazi an act of terror in the Rose Garden. But that aside, I mean, he could have made a bigger issue out of Benghazi and really never said anything about it. So those two things, what do you think?
In that second presidential debate at Hofstra, I thought that Governor Romney was pretty aggressive throughout, but I think the big difference was that President Obama was also aggressive. And, in the way these kinds of events get looked at and covered, sometimes it's less important the words and more important kind of the body language and the tone and tenor. And I think everybody went into that debate with one question in mind, and that is, would the President Obama who was at the first debate show up again, or would this be a different and more aggressive President Obama? And so I think that debate turned much more simply on the fact that the president was as aggressive or a little more aggressive than Mitt Romney. Now, on the Benghazi moment, it's a very interesting question. Mitt Romney, as he went through all of the debates that he went through as a seeking the Republican nomination, was, I always thought, extremely well prepared. He knew his brief and he knew his opponent's weaknesses. In one debate or another, he had to worry about Newt Gingrich, or he had to worry about Rick Santorum, and in all of those cases, he was armed with information that sort of caught them unawares. This was a case in which, when the president said he had called it an acts of terror, which I believe were his exact words in the Rose Garden, Governor Romney was a little bit flummoxed. And what he failed to do at that moment was to say, well, you may have used the generic term acts of terror in the Rose Garden, but immediately after that, when you were pressed about calling that specific episode an act of terror, you were unwilling to do so. But instead, I think he was caught off guard by that, and in one way or another didn't have in mind the whole sequence of how the president had handled it. And so it made it easier for the president to essentially win that argument, put Candy Crowley aside, to win that argument at that moment.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that the whole topic of Benghazi in general, he never brought up. And with the Candy Crowley, again, he said, at the very end of that Rose Garden appearance, he said, we will not let acts of terror. But that was in the context, I think, if you look at it objectively, of 9/11 itself and the 9/11 anniversary and going forward and acts of terror. But when he came out and talked about Benghazi, he certainly did not call that an act of terror specifically. So, but again, and Candy Crowley then.
Here's what I would say about the issue of the moderator. No good debater that I've watched ever lets a moderator really get in the way, and we saw Newt Gingrich demolish moderators.
Absolutely.
In some of the things. I mean, I think it's up to the two people who are on the stage seeking the presidency to decide what to do at a moment like that, and he chose to step back.
Right.
Now, I think more significantly, the third debate, which was a debate about foreign policy. I mean, the debate at Hofstra was a town hall meeting.
Right.
That's a different animal to deal with because you're getting questions from the audience. It's sometimes a little more difficult to be too aggressive when you've got an audience of regular people sitting around. But in the foreign policy debate, Benghazi was almost not an issue, and he didn't press it in that debate.
Right.
And I think that's the question. They made a strategic decision for their own reasons that he was not going to be overly aggressive in that debate. That in some sense he was doing a little bit of hugging the president on some of these issues rather than taking him to task. And so that was a strategic choice on the part of the Romney campaign about how they were going to handle that moment or that debate.
Do you believe that a Republican candidate is getting a fair shake from the media? Do you believe Romney did? I mean, I think back to his foreign trip some reporter, I'll never forget this visual, was Governor Romney, what about your latest gaffe? And this, remember, it was the gaffe trip, the overseas gaffe trip. Everything he did was a gaffe. We just had President Obama sitting with Jay Leno. He mistakenly said that Vladimir Putin was the head of the KGB. He never was. He misidentified the Olympic Games, the events in the games that would be in Russia. He had the two Olympics mixed up. And he said that we have to widen our ports in the Gulf to let the new ships that are going to be coming through the Suez Canal. And he specifically said Charleston, South Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida. That's not the Gulf Coast. So, I mean, 3 mistakes on Jay Leno that nobody has said boo about, that if it were George Bush, if it were Republican probable for 2016, that's all you'd hear about. And this is, I could sit here and Dan, for the next 5 hours, give you these examples.
Well, let's put aside. I mean, we're trying to talk about the campaign,
right? But I'm just saying,
of the moment. In the campaign, I think it's fair to say Governor Romney got tougher coverage than President Obama got. But in part, I think that's a reflection not of necessarily of bias in the media, but in part on how skillful a campaign is at dealing with the media. And from knowing the people who were embedded with the campaigns and how they were treated and what access they got or didn't get, there is a frustration level that builds up. And a smart campaign knows how to deal with the press at a lot of different levels, whether it's the people who are traveling day to day, whether it's some of the other national reporters, whether it's TV interviewers, whether it's an investigative reporter. I mean, one of the problems that the Romney campaign had is that they were often reluctant to deal at the front end with kind of investigative pieces that were being done, and then they would object to them after they had come out. And I talked to somebody who had been in an earlier Romney campaign who said that in the first campaign they worked very hard whenever they found out that a reporter was working on a story that might be challenging. They worked hard to make sure they were able to give as much as they could of their side of that story. And I'm not sure that the Romney campaign did that as effectively. Now, press politician relations are difficult, but it's part of what you need to do as a presidential candidate is to manage those relationships, if
Absolutely.
you will, to manage that. If you look back in 2008, I don't think Romney got harsh coverage. John McCain felt he got unfair coverage.
I could go on and on about what they did to Sarah Palin the second she was announced.
But in 2000, John McCain got great coverage. So, it goes back and forth.
Quick question. We got a minute. Hillary on the Democratic side in 2016?
Well, she starts out as the front runner, obviously.
Okay. Could anybody beat her if she runs?
She will be hard to beat, but people said she would be hard to beat in 2008. Now,
okay.
There's no Barack Obama on the horizon in the Democratic Party at this point, but we're a long way away from
We got less than a minute, so just quick. Biden dead as far as the chances?
Well, if Hillary Clinton runs, I don't think Joe Biden will run.
Okay, interesting. Now, Republican side. Who do you see emerging? Christie can't win a Republican primary. Do you agree?
I don't know that. I mean, I think one of the choices that the Republicans are going to have to make is in what direction do they go in terms of a nominee? Do they look for somebody who they think can present the conservative philosophy in a sense in a much more robust way than either they thought that Romney or John McCain could? Do they look for that kind of candidate, or do they look for somebody who they think is not quite perfect on all of the issues, but who might be able to convert some blue states to red?
Dan Bowles, the book is Collision 2012. I thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, when we come back, I'll tell you who the guest is going to be at 5:30. I gave you a hint before. I actually told you before. Right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names.
Really? Yeah.
They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call a place for mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-908-1254, 800-908-1254.
Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Credit card companies lure you in with low introductory rates or low minimum payments, and before you know it, you owe thousands of dollars in credit card debt. It has happened to millions of good people just like you. But here's the good news. Thanks to a powerful program now approved, anyone with $2,000 or more in credit card debt can cut their credit card payments up to half and even reduce or eliminate interest charges altogether. That's right. Our nationwide nonprofit program is helping U.S. residents cut their credit card payments. Call 800-613-3159 now. The call and information are free. We've helped over 500,000 people with their credit card debt, and now we can help you. Call 800-613-3159 to see how this powerful nonprofit program can work for you. Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Get free of credit card debt today. Call 800-613-3159. That's 800-613-3159. Again, 800-613-3159.
Attention, if you've been classified as a high-risk driver due to DUI, DWI, or tickets for aggressive driving and are required to get expensive and hard-to-find SR22 auto insurance, then you must listen to this message because we can help. We're the largest insurance company in the U.S. specializing in SR22 auto insurance and focused on serving the needs of customers classified by the state as high-risk drivers. We help people get back on their feet by providing easy-to-get, low-cost SR22 insurance that anyone can afford. If you need SR22 auto insurance, or if you have it now and are paying too much, you need to call us today for your free quote at 800-836-4606. Our specialists are standing by waiting for your call. We understand people make mistakes, and we're here to help by making SR22 insurance easy to get and affordable for everyone. The call and quote are free. Call us now at 800-836-4606. That's 800-836-4606. Again, 800-836-4606.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. Folks ask me, what would Ronald Reagan do if he were with us today? I believe the first thing he'd do is stop Obamacare. Already it's in effect with higher taxes, hidden fees, skyrocketing insurance rates, big Medicare cuts, and some insurance plans are hit with a 40% tax. Protect yourself by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law, giving you the strategies, tips, and loopholes you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business owner, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need this book. Get the #1 bestseller, The Obamacare Survival Guide, at bookstores everywhere. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price.
Scroll down now to claim your copy of Obamacare Survival Guide for the special internet offer of only $4.95.
Sure, Steve might be a bit of a hypochondriac, but he never gets sick of breaking news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show. Call Steve at 1-855-777-9660. That's 1-855-777-9660. Here's Steve.
All right, folks, coming up, Paul Callan will join us on the other side of the break. Let's go to the phones. In West Virginia, we have Mike. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Steve, I think it's absolutely laughable that people in this country still believe that the president is elected and not selected. How can you have a fair election at any level, state, local, or federal, with electronic voting machines?
Well, how would you prefer that we do it, with paper ballots?
Paper ballot, county sheriff and other witnesses counting them up. Yeah, the old
All right,
way.
Interesting, Mike. I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. All right, folks, we're going to come back. Hey, paper ballots. As long as we never vote on the internet, which is what some people have proposed. We're coming back. Paul Callan on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Do you have a motorized wheelchair or scooter that needs repairs and you don't know where to turn? Then call the experts at Precision Repair Network. They are the specialists in repairing all makes and models of motorized wheelchairs and scooters. You can call 24/7 and they will come to you anywhere in the United States. They'll give you a loaner to use until they return yours in perfect condition. And your repairs may be covered by your Medicare or your private insurance, so there is little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. If your wheelchair or scooter needs repairs, call this special hotline now and learn how you can get door-to-door service on your repairs at little or no cost to you. Precision Repair Network. They'll get you moving again. Operators are ready to take your call right now. 800-978-4813. 800-978-4813. 800-978-4813. That's 800-978-4813.
Newsmax Magazine is proud to present a special tribute to our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. It's a very special documentary and commemorative issue of Newsmax Magazine celebrating the centennial of President Reagan's birth. First, here's a video clip from the award-winning documentary, Rendezvous with Destiny.
We're in the midst of a springtime of hope for America.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Impulses of an evil empire.
Tear down this wall.
I believe that together we can keep this rendezvous with destiny.
In the next several minutes, you will learn things about President Ronald Reagan that you've never seen, heard, or read before. Welcome to today's special Newsmax event celebrating the life and legacy of President Reagan. During this historic presentation, we will commemorate President Reagan's storied life. We'll revisit his 2 terms in office and recollect his proudest achievements and greatest challenges. Ronald Reagan's life reads like a fairy tale of success stories. He was an accomplished athlete, an honored veteran, a famous actor, the governor of California, and of course, our nation's 40th president.
He called himself a citizen politician and only entered politics when he warned government was gaining too much power. By then he was age 54, with a successful career behind him. Twice elected President of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan was a contradiction to some. Once a Democrat, then a Republican. A champion of smaller government whose own government grew. A fiscal conservative who failed to balance the budget. His critics mistook his affability for weakness, but behind the smile and the charm existed an extraordinary leader with unique skills and bold and revolutionary ideas.
We only had time to share just a few of the top defining moments in Ronald Reagan's presidency, but you'll get to see them all in Rendezvous with Destiny. By the way, the president's close relationship with the Pope is especially fascinating. You'll also learn how dealing with an alcoholic father helped shape Reagan's ability to negotiate. And if you ever wondered what the leader of the free world likes to get for the holidays, well, you'll find that out as well. So let's review today in this free offer. We are sending you a copy of Ronald Reagan, Rendezvous with Destiny, and the collector's limited edition of our issue commemorating the 100th anniversary of President Reagan's birth.
Right now, when you subscribe to Newsmax Magazine, you can own both the DVD and receive the special Reagan 100th Birthday Commemorative Edition. That's $25 in bonus gifts when you subscribe. Go to newsmax.com/Reagan13 to subscribe today. Join the millions who read Newsmax Magazine every month.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show.
No.
This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Joining us now, live in studio for the first time, is Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst, also former New York City homicide prosecutor and criminal defense attorney at Callan, Costa, Brady, and Brennan. Great to see you.
Nice being with you, Steve.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you here. All right, let's talk about stop and frisk. Of course, in your former capacity as New York City homicide prosecutor, the judge said basically this is a violation of the Constitution, the 4th and 14th Amendments. It's racial profiling by proxy, if you will, and she wants the whole thing revamped, an oversight for federal oversight for the NYPD. it's really a nightmare for NYPD and I believe for the people of New York City.
I'd have to agree with you. It's a total nightmare. You know, it brings me back memory-wise to when I was a prosecutor starting out in this city. This city has no institutional memory. And I say that because when I tell stories to younger people, people under the age of, say, 40, about what life was like in New York in the 70s and the 80s, their eyes widen and they're shocked. For instance, you get on a subway train. You didn't know what stop to get off of because graffiti covered all of the windows in the train. The only thing you could see is when the doors opened what stop you were at. Homeless every place in the city. People urinating on the streets. You go out for a carton of milk, as I did on East 41st Street, around the corner from here. I had a gun put in my back in a very well-known grocery store in the early 1980s. Times Square was just crime every place.
And 2,000 people murdered a year, at least in 1990, and most of them minorities.
Most of them minorities, and that was a lesson that I learned when I was in homicide in the Brooklyn DA's office. You know, every 8 days we were on 24-hour call. When there was a homicide, I'd go out to the scene in the middle of the night in the back of a police cruiser. Very exciting way to start my legal career. But it hardened you real fast because, you know, I'd get maybe to a Chinese restaurant where there'd be some poor soul laid on the back dead with some rice in a bowl next to him, and you'd find out $15 had been taken in a robbery by some guy with a gun.
Going on, a lot of delivery.
It was such a dangerous.
So what is it that the judge is missing here? Is it not? Let's get back to the case specifically. Was NYPD violating the constitutional rights of the people they were stopping and frisking?
No, they weren't. And I think the reason I tell this story about what the city was like is because it's not like that anymore. We're the safest big city in America, as Mayor Bloomberg said yesterday. And it's because the police have been aggressive in getting the bad guys off the street, getting the guns off the street. And we had a transformation in this city into the finest big city, certainly in America, but maybe even in the world. Compare us to Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Georgia, Washington, D.C., all very dangerous cities with less aggressive policing. Now, the judge in this case has said there's a pattern of what she calls indirect discrimination against minorities, particularly African Americans in the city. Now, I don't know what she means by indirect discrimination. It seems to me if you're a racist and you discriminate, you do it either directly or you don't do it at all. But the reason she uses that wording is because what's happened is, statistically, and you can argue about statistics, but approximately 70% of shootings are done by minority suspects. Sadly, 70 to 80% of the victims are black and Hispanics. So needless to say, when the police are out trying to get a shooter, they're going to be more likely to stop somebody who's a minority. I mean, after all, 70% of the shooters are minorities than Caucasians. Now, we can say, gee, that's really not fair. Maybe they should be stopping little old white ladies, too. But they're looking to get the guys who are most likely to be the criminals. Right. And as a result of that, aggressive policing, yes, they do stop people sometimes who don't have guns. But you know what's happened with it? And this is something the judge really doesn't talk about. Because the bad guys know they may be stopped by the police, they're not carrying the guns anymore. And people are not being endangered in minority communities throughout the city because the bad guys are leaving their guns at home because the cops may stop them. Now, the judge says, well, because in 90% of these stops, the cops don't come up with a gun, this is an unconstitutional violation of law. Well, I say it's not, because the police have individualized reasons for making these stops, and often, by the way, even though when they don't come up with a gun, they may come up with marijuana or some sort of illegal contraband that could justify the stop.
Will this be overturned on appeal?
Hard to say. I think it will be overturned on appeal, but bear in mind, we have a new mayor coming in New York, and Bloomberg has said he's filing an appeal. Virtually every electable candidate, and by that you have to say people in the Democratic primary.
They all favor this.
Yeah, they all favor it, and because they're pandering for votes. But what they're all going to forget is if we backslide into the kind of dangerous place we were before, everybody's going to rue the day that this decision was handed down.
Absolutely. We're talking to Paul Cowan. Callan, CNN legal analyst, former New York City homicide prosecutor, criminal defense attorney here on the Steve Malzberg Show. All right, quickly, let's go to Eric Holder and his announcement yesterday that once again the Obama administration, and they've done it on health care, they've done it on immigration, they've done it on recess appointment, they're going to decide to enforce portions of the law, whatever they see is fit, or not enforce portions of a law. And this in particular is the goal is to get put less people in jail on drug arrests, people that they determine to be low level, not part of gangs, not part of a drug selling ring, and they're going to not include the quantity of the amount of drugs that they were caught with, so as not to qualify them for mandatory minimum sentencing. I mean, I had on former U.S. Attorney General Mike Mukasey yesterday, who said that Eric Holder's breaking the law by doing this.
Well, I have to agree with Judge Mukasey. He is breaking the law. And, you know, these laws, and you may agree or disagree with these laws. I disagree with a lot of these drug laws. I think some of them, the penalties are too harsh. But we have a democracy. And in this democracy, these laws were voted in by a majority of the electorate. And they were voted in largely because during the crack epidemic, the criminals were largely the people who were using these drugs. And these laws were designed not just to get a street user, but to get the guy who was selling this poison to people, particularly in minority communities. Right. For the Justice Department now to come in and say, well, we're going to ignore the law, we're going to ignore what democracy mandates, and simply not bring these prosecutions, I think it may be illegal, but it's certainly immoral and it's certainly undemocratic.
He also mentioned that I asked him, could someone go to court to try to, make this not happen? He said that the only person or people that he could see having standing is Congress, because they passed a law which now the Justice Department will not enforce, and either Congress could capitulate by changing that law, or Congress could take them to court. Would you think that they would have standing to do so?
I think Congress might have standing to do so, but frankly, I don't think you'll get the votes in Congress to initiate such an action against the President and the Attorney General. Mm-hmm. So I think in reality, you're kind of stuck. If Holder doesn't want to enforce these laws, he's not going to. And ironically, I think, segging back to what we were just talking about, guess who's going to be running the New York City Police Department if we follow this federal judge's order? Holder and the Justice Department. Yeah. They're going to be putting cameras on cops on the street to discourage them from having interactions with people they think are criminal. And how do you think the average cop on the street's going to act? It's very easy for him to go and have a donut and a cup of coffee as opposed to risking his life, stopping somebody who he thinks is a bad guy.
And risking his career.
You bet. Risking his career in a lawsuit. And it all comes back to Eric Holder and the Obama administration.
It is a shame, but I always say welcome to the Obama nation. Joining us today was Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst. You watch him on CNN. You saw him there today, and you'll see him there again real soon. Former New York City homicide prosecutor, criminal defense attorney at Callan, Koster, Brady, and Brennan. I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
always
folks.
Nice being with you.
All right, folks, we're going to return right here. Anything of interest that you want to discuss, please, 855-777-9660 on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Hey guys, do you know your testosterone level? You should. Each year, declining testosterone robs more of your energy, drive, motivation, and even your ability to perform in bed. Take control of your testosterone today. Write this number down because Progene, the leader in dual-action testosterone supplements, is now giving you a free supply if you call today at 800-592-4834. If you'd like to feel closer to 20 than 40 and get back that energy, drive, and confidence, call now to try Progene risk-free. Don't believe us? We'll even prove it works. Ask about our at-home testosterone test kits and see for yourself what Progene can do for you. Be one of the next 100 callers. We'll triple your order and send you a full 1-month supply of Progene for free. A $70 value for only the cost of shipping and handling. Call 800-592-4834 for details. Know your level and kick your drive back into gear with Progene. Call 800-592-4834. That's 800-592-4834. Again, 800-592-4834.
If you are successful at what you do, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner, or you have a great career, you understand the concept of protecting yourself. Well, are you protecting yourself, your family, and your assets with quality term life insurance? Consider these possible rates. A man age 45 non-tobacco user could obtain $1 million of coverage for as little as $75 a month, and this rate is fixed for the next 10 years. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. A man age 50 non-tobacco user may be able to obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $115 a month. And this rate is fixed for the next 20 years. We have great rates for smokers too. Call the Term Lifeline now. 800-430-1309, 800-430-1309, 800-430-1309.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-831-1560, 800-831-1560, 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
If you need to lose weight and would like to get paid for it, that's right, I said get paid to lose weight. Just listen to the following announcement. The makers of GCE Green Coffee Bean Weight Loss are looking for real testimonials from real people and will pay you per pound to meet or exceed your weight loss goal. Until now, the secrets of green coffee's fat-burning power has been limited, but thanks to Dr. Oz, the secret is out. And now, this authentic green coffee bean fat burner is available in easy-to-take tablets. There are no expensive meals to buy or strenuous workouts. Simply take one tablet before each meal and record your progress. Only the first 200 callers are guaranteed to be accepted into the program. So if you're serious about losing extra weight and want to earn extra cash for fitting into your skinny jeans again, call 800-383-9230 now. Call 800-383-9230. 800-383-9230. Space is limited, so hurry and secure your spot today. 800-383-9230. Some conditions apply. 800-383-9230. 800-383-9230.
According to the FBI Uniform Crime Report, there are over 5,000 robberies every day. Your home could be at risk of being burglarized. Don't put your loved ones and valuables in jeopardy. For just over $1 per day, your home can be protected from break-ins, fire, and more. Get the latest home security technology from Protect Your Home, your ADT authorized dealer. Over 6 million households sleep better at night with ADT monitored home security. What's more, Protect Your Home is offering you their latest equipment, an $850 value, absolutely free for qualified customers. Protect your loved ones and home today. Call now for licenses and to find out more. The call is free, 1-800-949-8201. That's 1-800-949-8201. Again, 1-800-949-8201. $99 installation charge, 36-month monitoring agreement at $36.99 per month. Payment by credit card or electronic bank account charge. For new homeowner customers with satisfactory credit history only. Local permit fees may be required. Certain restrictions apply. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Microphones hot. Satellite link established. Studio lights illuminated. Cameras rolling. Audio and video encoders firing ones and zeros. Internet stream streaming. The most technology advanced radio show is on the air. Here's the captain of this enterprise, Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. And I promised you earlier in the hour, if you have a long memory, one of the most bizarre stories that I have ever heard. And we will talk about this on Thursday with Kendall Coffey on our Spinning the Law segment. Today's Tuesday already. We just spoke to Kendall last Thursday. Tomorrow's Wednesday already. How does this happen? Anyway, I know the wheels on the bus go round and round, whatever. Listen to this. God forbid you're on trial. Okay? God forbid you're on trial. God forbid you're on trial in New Mexico. And I say that for the following reason. Because the New Mexico Supreme Court is cautioning trial courts and lawyers that citizens, are you sitting down? If you're standing up, sit down. If you're sitting down, you might want to lie down. And if you're lying down already, I don't know if your heart could take this. Sit up in the control room, for crying out loud. Citizens who don't speak English have the right to serve on juries. Let me repeat that. Citizens who don't speak English have the right to serve on juries. What else could I say? What is that not the most? Now, I shouldn't say the most, because there are other stories that I can remember recently and that I have in my pile for not too far into the future that rank up there with that. So I don't want to give this the title, but is this not one of the most insane stories you've ever heard in your life? Now, the court issued the ruling, and it upholds an Albuquerque man's conviction for murder and other crimes in the bludgeoning death of his girlfriend and a subsequent armed robbery and stabbing. Michael Zamora's appeal argued that his conviction should be reversed because the county judge excused a Spanish-speaking prospective juror who had trouble understanding English. The Supreme Court says it agrees with that argument, but also says Zamora's defense needed to object during the trial and didn't do it. So this nutty claim, this guy was convicted for bludgeoning someone to death and then armed robbery, and he appeals because a Spanish-speaking juror was excused, and the court says, we agree. Now, unfortunately, we can't reverse your conviction because it was incumbent upon your defense attorney to object at the time that the juror was excused, and he didn't do it. But we agree with you, the court says. Just because someone can't speak English doesn't mean they shouldn't be sitting there listening to your case. What? What? The Supreme Court said, I did that already. The ruling issued yesterday tells judges and lawyers, and lawyers in love, just for the record, tells judges and lawyers that they must make reasonable efforts to protect the rights of non-English speaking citizens to serve on juries. I don't even know. I don't even know what this means. So what would you have? Would you have a translator, and the non-English speaking jurors would wear, like they do at the UN, wear headphones? And who's to say? How many times have you heard the expression lost in the translation? Am I still allowed to say lost in the translation? Or is that now, like a racist thing to say, a xenophobic thing to say? Is there a name for that? But who's to say that the translator will translate everything accurately, every nuance, every word, every meaning, the way it was intended from the witness or the testimony of the trial? I can't even fathom this. So I don't know. I don't know what this means. I mean, it gets in New Mexico, and I don't know if this will start a trend, but I can't wait. I can't wait to talk to Kendall Coffey about this, because I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. Anybody want to weigh in? We have about 7 minutes left in the show. 855-777-9660. 855. I'm sorry, we have 4 minutes left in the show. I like to take the optimistic view. That's why I said 7 minutes. What? 4 minutes is optimistic from your end? Okay. 855-777-9660. Here's another story, which is just crazy. Not as crazy, but crazy. And it concerns me, I don't know, equally as much, if not more. There are accounts that U.S. border officials are facing a major surge of immigrants from Mexico. Immigrants claiming asylum by using a few key words. And this has prompted calls from Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, Republican, to halt the pending immigration legislation until these abuses, as he puts them, are ended. Documents obtained by Fox News show that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE, has been paying for hotel rooms for dozens of recently arrived families to relieve overcrowding at processing centers in San Diego. How would you like a hotel room in San Diego? Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. Get to go to SeaWorld, go to the beach. The weather in San Diego is always perfecto. So here's the deal. It appears that if you say that you're facing abuse and fear from drug cartels when you cross the border now, these are the magic words that give you asylum. It's insane. It is totally insane. And Sessions says the House cannot allow such actions to continue. They must use every power they have to end this absurdity. No immigration bill should advance until these abuses are ended. I'm just looking for the exact The reports about a surge in asylum requests have raised new concerns amid claims that illegal immigrants have learned they could attempt to get asylum by using a few key words, namely by claiming they have credible fear, quote unquote, of drug cartels. Then they get to stay in a hotel in San Diego until their case is heard by a lawyer, by a court. And, of course, what's the court going to say? Well, if you have fear of a drug cartel, we're not sending you back. This, folks, should we call this the insane segment? Steve's insanity segment, perhaps? Also, how about this? A proposed rule, federal rule, but of course, they know what's best for us. Thank God the feds are there to tell us what's best to control our lives so we don't have to do anything on our own and we won't hurt ourselves or get ourselves in financial trouble or, or insult somebody without being punished. They're there. They're good. The federal government's good. Okay. A proposed federal rule that would require black boxes or even event data recorders, known as EDRs, in every U.S. automobile. That's right. This is a proposed federal rule, which means that Big Brother could be in your passenger seat for every single drive you make. For what? I mean, I already have my Easy Pass, right? The government already knows when my car has gone through. They don't know who's in the car, but they could assume it's me. They know which tunnel I've gone through, which bridge I've gone through, and when. They got so many cameras around New York City that they could probably follow my car anywhere they want. But this is above and beyond. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration rule requires all light passenger vehicles be equipped with an EDR by September 1st of next year. 96% of new cars already have them. Do you know that your car has a black box if you got a new car? And an EDR? My goodness. Measuring such inputs as speed, lateral acceleration, pedal effort, seatbelt use, wheel spin, steering wheel turn and direction. The only record information in the brief period before and after a crash. They only record information in the brief period before and after a crash. But black box data retrieved from a U.S. car accident in a single day would provide more information than a year's worth of crash testing. So under the guise of convenience and getting to the bottom of accidents quicker, they're going to be able to put a black box. It's already being done. It's already being done. Finally, I saw a tape of this. Channel 7 Eyewitness News over the weekend. I think it was someone named Carolina Lean, reporter. She was the anchor. Okay. Edie Gourmet, famous singer, married to Steve Lawrence. Edie Gourmet passed away. She called Edie Gourmet Eddie Gorm. Eddie Gorm. And Gorm said he was suffering from, and Gorm, Eddie Gorm. Channel 7, WABC TV Eyewitness News. Can't make it up. On the Steve Malzberg Show, right here on Newsmax TV.